We should be live everywhere. Well, good morning from the Mastermind of the Smokies. We are here live for the Next Best Leap Summit. We've been here all week, masterminding with some of my core community, some of our the Thing.live speakers and attendees. And we have had an amazing week just focusing on serving each other, helping each other grow their businesses. And we decided today that we let you hang out with us and kind of sneak in. Because when I host a mastermind event, I think of them as like potlucks. And so you're getting to the part where everybody kind of brings their best stuff. And our theme today is what if your next best step was a leap forward? It's leap day, so we want to help you make a leap forward. And we're gonna dive right in with communication. Jason Rates is going to get us started. Jason attended the thing last year in Nashville. I spoke at a conference last year. Somebody told me about Jason. We connected. He has an amazing organization called Speak with People. He helps people level up their communication in their business and as communicators on stages and platforms. So I'm excited for you guys to get to know Jason and to hang out with him this morning and level up your communication. And let's take our first leap together. Jason, welcome.
Wow. Well, let me tell you about Joy. I met Joy a few years ago, and Joy was an absolutely amazing leader. She was in her company for 15 years. She was excelling in everything that she did. Everybody knew Joy. She was an MVP. Her boss loved her. She did everything on time. She was the first in. She was the last out. She did all the things that everybody always looked to Joy if they needed something done correctly. Then, one day, her boss calls her into their office and says, Joy, guess what? And Joy was very excited. She was filled with joy. Little pun on words there. Not super funny, but it's early still. And they said to Joy, hey, our regional sales meeting is in 2 months, and I've selected you to give the talk in front of all of the peers and our, everybody at the meeting. And Joy immediately went into shock. All the joy left her face. She had nothing left. Immediately, her stomach started to be filled with knots. She could feel some sweat beads running down her back, and she politely declined. She said, no, thank you. I love my job. I love doing everything, but I'm a behind-the-scenes person. I don't need to do anything up front. And her boss said, well, I politely decline. Very politely decline. You're going to do this. I need you to do this. You know the most about this. And Joy immediately went into kind of some mild hyper shock. She just did not want to do this. A couple of reasons why. Fear. She was very afraid to communicate in public. 2, she had told herself for years, Joy, you're not a communicator up front. You don't need to communicate up front. You don't have anything inside of you that people need to hear. Just do all the background stuff, which is great. And she did that amazingly. But her boss saw something different in her. And so a month goes by, her boss calls her in and says, how's the presentation coming? And Joy said, well, I have a blank Google Doc. That's how it's coming. I don't know what to do. I have all these ideas. Even though her boss had kind of given her a framework, some ideas, Joy wasn't able to kind of make some ground on it. And so her boss said, hey, just keep working, keep trying to get all those processes together. You have 1 month. So night after night, Joy went home. She opened up her laptop. She took all of her research, her ideas. She started dumping it in a document. She didn't really know what to do. And her biggest fear in all of this is she just wanted to be able to communicate in a way that people would listen to her. She just kind of believed this lie down deep for years. Hey, I'm a background worker. I do all this stuff, so I don't really have to talk in front of people because nobody's going to listen to me anyways. And so a few weeks before the event, her boss calls her in the office, says, how's the talk coming, the presentation? Joy said, it's not together. You need to pick somebody else. There's still time. And her boss said, hey, did I send you the simple structure that I use for all of my presentations? And Joy said, no, you did not. And so later that night, her boss emails her this very simple structure. It's just a template on a Google Doc. And then all of a sudden, Joy started working through this. And the ideas were flowing. Things were getting honed. Ideas were coming to her. And all of a sudden, she looked up and it was 4:45 in the morning. And she realized, I need to go to bed. She goes into the office the next day and her boss says, hey, how's it coming? And Joy's like, fantastic. I can't wait. Now, what was the change for her? The change for her was that she was given this simple structure to be able to help her out. So many communicators fail. So many communicators, so many leaders who have to get up in front of their team and present a report and update. Sales folks who have to give a sales presentation. So many of us who are always holding up a camera and we're trying to do a message for TikTok or YouTube. So many of our messages, so much of our communication fails because we don't have a simple structure to it, because we're not clear, because we don't believe in ourselves, because we don't really know if what we have to offer people will listen. And here's what I want to challenge you as a leader, whether you are a thought leader, an author, a speaker, a business owner, you're in sales, whatever position you're in, the more that you invest in your communication skills, especially your upfront public speaking skills, when you do this, your leadership will expand. There's just something that ignites in a leader the moment that they get up front and they successfully communicate in a way that people not only listen, but then they make decisions based off of that presentation. There's just something incredibly powerful. Let me tell you about one other leader. His name was Rob. Rob is in the same company. Rob was totally different. He wanted to be selected. He was always trying to be in front of people and be the person who was crushing his sales presentations and knocking out of the park. The problem was there was a big breakdown between Rob's communication and getting through to the people he was communicating to. And he was frustrated by it. And so here's my challenge to you. If you're a leader and you want to leap forward with your communication skills, people will listen to you and they will make decisions based off of what you say if you speak with people and not at them. Let me say that one more time. People will listen to you and they will make decisions based off of what you told them, what you spoke to them, what you presented to them, if you speak with people, not at them. With versus at, we're probably already, maybe in your mind, think of somebody who you think speaks at you. Who is somebody who speaks at you? I like to lovingly refer to these people as at-holes. These are people who speak negative words at you. They're forceful. Maybe they're belligerent. Maybe they're obnoxious with their communication. Maybe they just take a line too far in trying to force the communication to you. Maybe you could think of some politicians who do this, or some TV characters, or maybe there's a family member in your life. Here's the reality. When you speak at somebody, you're forcing the information, and that's the complete opposite of communication. The word communication actually derives from the Latin word communis. I gotta be careful there so I don't say with the T, communis, which actually means to share. So when you speak with people, you're actually sharing, you're connecting with a deep level. And when you can actually connect, when you communicate, people will make decisions based on what you're trying to do with your talk, your speech, or your presentation. They'll make decisions that you could either persuade them, you can inform them, they'll buy your product, they'll go to your blog posts, they'll subscribe to your channel. When you communicate with them, you build trust with them. It's just this powerful moment. Now, one of my favorite leaders in all the planet is Idra Nui. She's a former PepsiCo CEO. She's a current Amazon board member. She says you cannot overinvest in your communication skills. If you can't simplify a message and communicate it clearly, no one's ever going to follow you. And that's the absolute truth. My friend Joy, she had convinced herself that she couldn't communicate a message in front of people. My friend Rob, he had convinced himself that he could, but he just wasn't connecting. And so if you find yourself in a position like Joy or Rob, and you want people to listen, you want people to listen so well that they'll make decisions based on what you're saying, speak with them, not at them. Speak with them. Here's the reality. Maybe some of you aren't sold yet. If you just invest a little bit, just a little bit. I have 5 kids. When my 16-year-old daughter was little, she always used to say, "Daddy, can I have just a little bit? Just a little bit." Just a little bit. And of course, Daddy obliged because she could do no wrong in my eyes, and I would give her as much of the ready whipped cream that she wanted. Just a little bit, until Mom came in the room. But if you invest in your communication skills, here are some of the crazy benefits that are going to come to you. I mean, these are ridiculous. And so, even if you rarely speak in front of people, or you're a regular, you're leading team meetings, you're doing sales presentations, you're speaking into a camera, you got a YouTube channel, here are some of the benefits that happen when you invest in your communication skills. One, your confidence is going to go through the roof. Your self-confidence. Many of us, like Joy, would sit in team meetings and she would be so quiet. She didn't want to say anything in that meeting because she didn't believe in herself enough to speak up. And so as she began to learn how to structure her thoughts to communicate them in front of people, her confidence went way through the roof. Your self-confidence is going to soar. Not only that, you're going to be able to articulate your thoughts a whole lot quicker. Wouldn't you love to be able to articulate your thoughts a lot quicker? I mean, I do. I have some teenagers in my house still, and I have some young adults. As a 48-year-old dad, I have to communicate my thoughts quickly because my teenagers will like roll right over me. I got to be ready. But more than just communicating your thoughts to your teenagers, especially in the workplace, you've got to be able to be ready when your team member, when a team leader, when a supervisor, a boss, a direct report says, hey, I need your opinion on this. And if you've been kind of telling yourself for years, well, I got to go think for a little while. When you invest in your communication skills, it will help you articulate your thoughts quickly. And then another benefit, you'll be able to share those thoughts clearly. And that's what the human brain longs for. It longs for clarity. Especially when somebody starts telling a story, your brain is already working, right? It's burning calories. It's trying to figure out, what are they trying to tell me? Like some of you are still thinking about joy. How does joy fit into this? How did Joy do? Did Joy crush her presentation at the regional sales meeting? Some of you are already thinking that. Some of you aren't. One of the best books I've ever read, Secrets of Dynamic Communication by Ken Davis. It's probably 30 years old at this point. It is a classic. It is a classic. And I didn't have it in my library for a long time until Terry Weaver just sent me a copy just a few weeks ago, which I love because I've been through that book so many times and now I can go through it again. But in that book, the great communicator Ken Davis, he shows a study that says people forget 70% of what they hear the minute they walk out. So whether it's in church, whether it's in a presentation, whether it's in a conference, 70% just fly out. And that doesn't even account for, all the things they're doing at the same time. All the distracting things that are happening. That's why, as a communicator, if you want people to listen to you and then actually make a decision based on what you're saying, you've got to learn to speak with people and not at them. You've got to learn to speak with people and not at them. There's a great book, great author, Nick Morgan. He says the only reason to speak in front of people is to change the world. Now, for some of you, you're like, how am I going to change the world? The reality is you may not be able to change the world, but you could change your world. You could change your world with your thoughts. You could change your world with your ideas. And that's what Joy started to experience. When she started to get some confidence, she started to get some clarity, she started to get some idea of, wait a minute, my thoughts matter. Wait a minute, I have material, I have content, I have ideas that can help my peers at this regional sales meeting. The same thing for Rob. When Rob started to make the switch, okay, wait a minute, I can do something powerful here. So I want to challenge you. If you want people to listen to you when you speak, whether that's in a sales meeting, updating a team, on a camera, on your YouTube channel, on a TikTok, whether it's doing a sales pitch, and you want them to listen in a way that they'll actually make a decision based off your speaking, speak with people, not at them. With them, not at them. Now, how do you do this? How in the world do you do this? 3 simple ways. The first way is to just be you. It's just to be you, especially as a communicator. We struggle so hard with comparison. So hard with comparison. I would love to be Simon Sinek. I would love to be able to talk in a way where people go, oh, ooh, ah. I don't get all 3 of those. I just normally get like oh. I wish I got the 3 oohs and ahs. But I would love to. And for years, I tried to be somebody that I wasn't when I communicated. And I never came across as a genuine person. And so if you want to be you, you got to understand how you were wired, how your communication DNA is structured. Jeff Henderson, an incredible communicator, Forbes actually calls him one of the best communicators on the planet. He says there's kind of 4 different types of communicators. 4 kind of super basic types. First one is a motivator. Motivator, right? They're the hoorah person. This is the person who's like the football coach, the cheer coach, the chess coach. And if there's hoorah in chess, I don't know. But they're the person who can motivate any crowd. Like, let's go get them. Let's do it. I wonder for you, who comes to mind when you think of a motivator? Who comes to mind? I think of maybe like a Brendan Bouchard, the motivator. You can do it. You can do it. Another type is a storyteller. This is the kind of person that people are just glued to. Kind of person they lean in to hear what's going to happen next with the story. Another type is a teacher. This is the kind of person who just thrives off of analytics, and they're going to put up slides they're going to make their point and their assertions come across. A motivator, a storyteller, a teacher, or a visionary. They're going to cast the preferred picture of what could happen in your life if you buy their product, if you go through their training, if you use their course. I mean, this is that type of person. So I know I went through those really quickly, but I wonder which one you're thinking you are. Are you the motivator? Are you the storyteller? Are you the visionary? Are you the teacher? Each of us are gifted in our own unique ways. You don't have to be someone you're not. And we'll be able to tap into each of them as we communicate. But it is important to be able to do that. The goal is not to be somebody else with your communication. It's just to be you. For years, I struggled with this. I failed miserably. And it really wasn't until I failed miserably. I got my dream speaking engagement, 1,000 people. I thought I had arrived. I thought I was the greatest communicator known to man, and I just failed. I walked up on stage. I tried to be somebody else. I lost track of time, and I just failed. Don't learn my failure. Learn my failure lessons so you don't have to go and fail to learn to just be you. People will listen to you and make decisions based on what you speak if you just be you. You just be you. Every once in a while, my 16-year-old says to me, just be you, boo. Just be you. Be you. People are gonna listen to you and make decisions based on what you're speaking if you speak with them, not at them. So be you, and then be obsessed with your audience's success. Be absolutely obsessed with your audience's success. Again, this was one of my giant mistakes for years as a communicator. And I bet as I talked with Joy, she could relate, because Joy was so concerned about how she would do. What if my knees lock? What if the sweat just piles down my armpits? What if I trip over my words? Those are all the wrong questions. You know why? Because you're focusing on yourself. And speakers, leaders, sometimes we have this disease, this great disease called me-itis. It's all about me. The world is about me. Look at me. Look at me. But the reality is you will truly succeed. People will listen to you and they'll make decisions based on your speaking if you are obsessed with their success. So if you're going to speak at the regional sales meeting like Joy is, find out everything you possibly can about your audience. Dive into everything that's happening in their lives, their problems, their needs, what's going on in their lives. And so when you do come and you present your material, you're able to provide solutions and you're focused on their success. So you're going to be you. You're going to be obsessed on your audience success, and then you're going to be clear. You're just going to be clear. If you want people to listen to you, you want to communicate in a way that people are going to respond and make life-changing decisions based on your communication, be absolutely clear. There's a tremendous leader. He is a regional manager for a struggling paper supply company in Northeast Pennsylvania. This company is called Dunder Mifflin. He's been there for 12 years, and his name is Michael Scott, and he says this about communication. Sometimes I start a sentence, and I just hope I find it along the way. That is not the lesson that we need to learn from Michael Scott. I'm sure that there are other lessons, but you as a leader, as a communicator, you have to know what you are going to say before you say it. You need to prepare. You cannot be like Allen Iverson from the 2000s and say, practice? What are you talking about? Practice. Practice, preparation, and rehearsal are your best friend. If you're nervous about speaking, prepare. If your stomach's tied up in knots about speaking, prepare. Rehearse. Walk through your message. Walk through your speech. Walk through your slides. The more you prepare, it will knock out the fear. And that clarity will come rushing to you. That's why for me, all these years I've been communicating, I keep it simple. I have an introduction where I answer the why question. Why should these people listen to me? I hook them right away. I start a story that they can relate to, or a story that they can laugh at. And then I walk right into their problem. What's their problem? And then from there, I talk about the know. What do I want them to know about what we're talking about? And then from there, I set up the big idea statement, the one repeatable, memorable, actionable sentence that they can walk away with, which coincidentally, that sentence for this is if you want people to listen to you and to make decisions based on your speaking, speak with people, not at them. After the big idea, I go into my points. And yes, I typically always use 3 points. It has worked since the dawn of time. It's worked since Shakespeare has written 3 acts. If you get to point 17, people have checked out because their attention spans are gone. And then I follow up with my strong call to action, and then I'll close it off with my conclusion. And that simple structure has helped me, and it helped Joy. When the time came for the regional sales meeting, Joy put that simple structure in her document. She walked through everything. Then she walked through how to practice and rehearse. And by the time she got there that morning, she couldn't wait. She couldn't wait to plug in everything. She couldn't wait for the crowd to arrive because she was no longer focused on herself. She was no longer focused on the wrong things. She was focused on her audience success. She was about to communicate just as Joy, and then she was extremely clear with her communication. And at the end, she looked down in the front row, and there was her boss taking notes, writing down some actionable steps, and Joy encouraged them that day to make the decisions based on her presentation. So you as a leader, my encouragement to you, if you want to leap forward in your communication, if you want to take this seriously, you want to provide such amazing content for your audience, you want to speak in a way that people are actually going to listen and make decisions, speak with them. Just be you. Be you. Be you. Be obsessed with their success and be clear with your communication. And I know that you will experience great success in your communication. Thank you very much for watching this first session.
Amazing, Jason. We appreciate you joining us. This is the first time you've come to one of our Mastermind events, and so we just met. What did you think, kind of embracing this community? What has this week been like for you as you've kind of gone from someone who kind of snuck in the back door to attend the Thane conference to now you're here locked in a log cabin on top of a mountain with us?
Yeah, well, a few things. One, I feel like I found my people. I mean, I feel like I've been searching in a wilderness for a long time. Does anybody understand what I'm going through? And then I attended the thing, and you've been so incredibly gracious with helping me with some thoughts and ideas, and then meeting other folks. I feel like I found my people who are here to help each other succeed, help each other grow. And then 2, I feel like the time here on the mountain has probably been the most valuable investment I've ever made in Speak with People. Because to be able to sit around with brilliant leaders who the competition is just not there of I need to be better than you. It's no, let's make each other better and help each other succeed. It has been amazing. It's been absolutely
Awesome.
amazing.
Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll be sure people can follow up with you, get a hold of you have an amazing course that you offer to help people be better communicators. Yep. And I'm excited you're a part of this community, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Jason. Well, I happen to know this next speaker pretty well because we sleep in the same bed. So Leslie Weaver is going to come and talk about what happens when we hit roadblocks with our goals and our mission and our purpose and how to power through them. So Leslie, take it away.
You got it. All right, so 15 years ago, we moved into our house. The neighborhood was just being built, and ironically, we are 2 houses away from it being completed. So that's almost 20 years that they've been building this neighborhood. So 15 years ago, we moved in. We were in the beginning-ish of phase one. About 5 years into the build, they finally got to the end of phase one. So why this was important is our neighborhood has a street, or it does now, that connects this side of town to this side of town. And so this street opening up for us was key to get to our mother-in-law's house. It was key to really getting around town and not sitting in traffic. You know, that road where there's always cars and you're always sitting. So this was going to be we can get through town, we can escape all the traffic. But here's what happened. When they got through with phase one, they started on phase two, the road was done. We decided to drive back to the back of the neighborhood. So excited about this. There was a roadblock sign. Not one, there were 2 roadblock signs. One on this street and one on this street. So we were stuck. Literally, there was a road and we couldn't go any further. The piece that made me upset is I wanted to get around town, but we were so excited, and I'm a little bit of a weirdo. I like to know where hospitals are. I like to know where emergency services are. So when we bought our house, we knew they were building a firehouse half a mile, 3/4 of a mile down the street. So for me, that was important because I knew fire truck, ambulance could get to our house within 1 to 2 minutes when this street opened up. So that roadblock was a barrier for me, knowing that I could get the fire truck and the ambulance to our house, which was important because we have family members that visit us often that need those services. So instead of that 1 to 2 minute time, it was about a 5 to 7 minute because I had to go all the way around town in order to get to us and sit in traffic, because we all know people don't move to the right like they're supposed to. So today, what I want to talk about is how do we approach roadblocks? So a lot of times as we're doing goals and we're trying to get somewhere, roadblocks stop us. We let roadblocks devastate us, actually. We let them just be barriers for us to accomplish anything. So I want us to talk about how do we plan for common roadblocks in order to help us keep moving forward. Because a lot of times we stop and we're like, what do we do? If we don't have a plan, it's overwhelming, if we're honest. So what I want to talk about is I want you to think about roadblocks a little bit differently today. So when you come to a roadblock, having a plan is like a stepping stone. So stepping stones, the whole purpose of a stepping stone is if you're crossing a river, you have stepping stones to get to the other side because that water is the barrier to get you across to the other side. If you're in a garden, those stepping stones are like a pathway or a guideway to get you to where you want to go. So that's what I want us to talk about, is a little bit about having a plan and how you accomplish those plans. So I asked a group of people, I said, hey, what are your common roadblocks to getting to where you want to go with your goals? And so let me read some of the things that they told me. So the things I wrote down were fear. And so I dug a little deeper into fear. It was fear of success. So what do I do when I am successful? I've lived in this world where I haven't been successful, so I don't know what to do when I become successful. Another one was fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown. So those were some things. A big one that I saw a couple times was they felt like they had limited financial resources to get to where they wanted to go. Lack of opportunity. One that I could relate with a little bit was a lack of belief in self, or the mindset, can I succeed? Another one was lack of knowledge. Physical health was one. Perfectionism, overwhelm, lack of courage, lack of confidence, and they just weren't motivated. So I want to encourage you not to let roadblocks defeat you. So let's look at these stepping stones and how we can help create stepping stones when we hit those roadblocks. So I think the first thing we need to do is we need to know where we're going. So where are we going? Do we have a clear direction of this is the other side of the road? This is where I want to go. And I know where I'm going. I know how I'm getting there. Because if you don't have any clarity, it's going to take you longer to get to where you're trying to go. So you need clear steps of this is the direction I want to go. And I dare say have a vision for it. If you're a vision board person or just a photo, whatever it takes for you to have a simple reminder in front of you all the time of what you're trying to accomplish. So I'm a big believer that when you don't plan, I'm a huge planner. When you don't plan, you're setting yourself up to fail. And so that's where we want to go with these roadblocks is having a plan for common roadblocks. You're not going to get every roadblock and go, I got it figured out. But what are the common ones that you could approach and have a plan to go, all right, today I'm not motivated. What am I going to do about it? What one step forward or one step of progress am I going to make today to move ahead? So here's what I do is I like to just figure out what are my barriers, and then we're going to focus on one today. So I'm going to give you an example because there's a lot of people here who are writing books. That's something I've been challenged to do is write a book on leadership, helping new leaders understand what leadership is about, because we have so many people that when you're great, they go, oh, you know how to do the next thing. And reality says they don't. They were great at this, and nobody has taught them how to lead, how to manage people, how to effectively care about the people that they supervise and they manage. So that's where I'm going to use this as an example for me. And so some potential roadblocks that I thought of, because I felt it's important to really clearly define what you think could stop you from moving forward. So mine was the motivation to write. What am I writing? Like, what am I going to do? Consistently writing, like having a plan to consistently write. Lack of knowledge. I have no idea how to write a book, but I know the topic. So understanding that. Belief in your stories, in your skills. And then the last one, which is the one I want to focus on, because a couple people said this when I polled my friends, was health or just personal health and having the energy to write. So for me, it would be having the energy to write. So ways that I thought about this in my plan is I need to define, if I know I may not have the energy to write, I need to step back and say, hey, when is my best time? Like, when do I have the most energy? When do I have the most productivity? When is that? So define when that time is. On the other side of that, I think it's just as important to say, when do I suck? Like, when should I not do this? When am I going to get poor results? So understanding that is just as important as understanding when am I at my best. So understanding that. The other thing I do is, all right, this is my best time. When during the week can I sit down and focus on this? Is it on a work day? If my best time is a 9 to 11 every day, that's in the middle of my work day. Is that something I can do? So another thing that I do is I have a no meeting day. So is it something where I could take a longer lunch that day and utilize my time to focus if I did it one day a week? Or maybe during the week isn't the right thing. Maybe it's on the weekends. That's when I focus my time. So maybe it's Saturday mornings. I get up and I focus a set amount of time on doing this. And then I need to decide, is every day something, do I need to write every day? Is that going to work for me? Is it going to work with my schedule? And how long? So we'll get into this here in just a second. So writing a goal down is a big thing and having that plan. So the process for creating this plan of accomplishing or overcoming your roadblocks would be to ask yourself, where am I going? Like when you're hitting a roadblock, I think the first thing to do is to stop and reflect and go, all right, I don't have the energy to write today. Just stop and say, where am I going? Remind yourself of what that end goal is. My end goal is to get that book across to help leaders. So it's today, is it worth my energy to help that person? And then it's okay to say, what can I do today? I don't have to write the whole book today. That's not realistic. Is writing a chapter realistic? Maybe not. Is writing a quote that could influence the next day and moving forward the next day, is that what I need to do? So coming up with where am I today and what's my end goal? And then the next thing, step 2, is decide to act or execute the plan that you have in place. So I wrote just some simple things that might help me when I get stuck. Is write a quote or have a quote. I have one in my planner every month. I write one every month just to motivate me for that month. So I better get on tomorrow because I haven't done it yet. March is tomorrow, so that'll be my evening. But write a quote out just to motivate you and to get that response of this is what I'm doing. The next thing I might do is I might watch a short video or listen to a podcast to get my brain thinking. I've got to get myself in that mindset of what am I doing? How am I motivated? So that might be something, and I may only do one of these things. I may do all of them. It just depends on my energy that day. But I have a plan to say, when I'm not feeling it, what am I going to do about it? So I feel like I'm moving forward. The next thing is, because it's 2024, one thing I'm trying to do is write regularly for 24 minutes. It may not be a daily thing, but can I regularly write for 24 minutes? And then the thing that I like to leave with is, I'm going to have a prompt or a list of prompts to respond to. So if I'm just not motivated, what is it about this topic that excites me? And that's a running list that I can keep. I just keep it on my phone that I can keep and then go, all right, let's pull out a prompt. Let's write a prompt. Let's make it happen. Or maybe you come up with the one for the next time that you're not feeling it and you're not motivated. So ask yourself, what can I do today to get myself one step? That's all you're doing, is one step closer to that end result that you're trying to do. And then the third step is, once you've done that, evaluate your progress. So did I make progress today? Ask yourself that. And we're, like I said, we're not talking huge progress. We're saying, did I make more progress than yesterday? Did I move forward a little bit closer to the end goal? And then what are you going to do to commit tomorrow? So go ahead and set the intention today. What am I doing tomorrow to commit towards working towards that goal? So just evaluate what's next for you. So those were, we're going to ask, where are we going? We're going to act or take action. And then we're just going to evaluate, am I getting closer to my goal? So let's go back to that story we were talking about with the neighborhood. So what happened with the neighborhood is, we had that roadblock in the back of the neighborhood. So it was important to us. For me, it was important because I wanted the emergency services to be close enough to our house. Terry would probably say he wanted to be able to get to his mom. The dogs that we have would say they need to get to Camp Grandma's quickly because their parents might not be the best all the time. And so we had to advocate. We advocated with our elected officials. We advocated and said, we need this road open. And I mean, we gathered the neighborhood. There were probably, 90 of us at the time. We all gathered. Some of us called. Some of us went to meetings, talked to them, went to their big meetings and talked to them. But we were advocating to get that street open. It was for convenience for us. But unfortunately, there was an incident that happened in the neighborhood with a construction worker. And it was a life-threatening incident. And it took that incident to get the attention of our elected officials to get it open, because they actually needed lifeline. It was very serious with the construction worker. After that incident, I think all of the efforts together is what got that road open. And now it's a pretty major thoroughfare to get through both sides of town. But I would encourage you to also, when you're coming up with this plan of how do I manage roadblocks, how do I create stepping stones, remember, you're the only person who's going to advocate for you. And this is your plan to advocate for yourself and to move forward in what you're truly wanting to accomplish. So that's my thing, is create those stepping stones. So when you hit that roadblock, you know where you're going to go. There we go.
Awesome. Thank you, Leslie. Unless you want to talk about how awesome the Think community is for you.
I'm here.
You're here, yeah.
Here.
Yeah. Whether you want to be or not, but you want to be, right?
Yes. Moving on.
You can move on. So this is where transparency comes in. I'm here speaking to you today that if I was home, I would not be doing anything. I would be back in bed. But because I had a responsibility and I committed to be with you guys, I'm still here. I'm powering through. Hopefully, you may get a briefer talk from me today, just because my energy and fighting the. This is the time of the year when all the bugs are flying, and we all seem to be getting them, and of all different varieties. And I think that's kind of interesting, is that as leaders, we spend so much time giving to other people that we forget the toll that leadership takes on ourselves. We forget the toll that taking action when other people are choosing to stay safe take on ourselves. As you guys know, I coach a bunch of high-level leaders, and one thing I've learned about them is, and on almost everyone I talk to, is they're always busy. They're always busy. Do you ever feel that way? That every time somebody asks you how you're doing, what is your answer? Do you say, yeah, man, I'm just really busy. And my thought was, as I looked at all these busy people, I assumed they would all be rich. Because as busy as they were, they should be getting highly paid. But in reality, what they were doing is they were busy with someone else's agenda for their life. And I want to challenge you to be aware of that. And I want to challenge you today, really quick, to stop giving everyone else control over how your life looks. There's one thing that matters for you to have a business. You've got to have revenue. And you don't just have to have revenue, you have to have profit. I'm not one of these guys that wants to tell you to build a funnel, that you can just build one of them. And if you spend 1 point, if you can be a multi-figure entrepreneur, that makes $1 million a year, but you spend $1.2 million a year on ads. I don't want to be that guy. I want to challenge you guys to be aware. So in the process of helping those that have committed to my mastermind, and many of them you're hearing from today, I created a framework. And I used to be the guy that used to kind of laugh at frameworks. I was always like, oh man, the framework just means someone's about to sell me something if they've got a framework. They've got something they want me to buy. They've got a course they want me to buy. And I began to look at the time that I spent and where my time went. And so I'm kind of the anti-time management guy. I'm lucky if I remember to put things on my calendar that I have to do. I don't use a paper planner. I don't have I tend to just do the things that are in front of me that I care the most deeply about. And that's really where I spend my time. But this AWARE framework has really helped me. And we were supposed to have it on the screen, but you'll just have to trust me, and I'll email it to you later if you've signed up on my email list. If you're watching this, if you haven't, you should get it. The A in AWARE stands for awareness activities. What are the activities that you're doing that are making people aware that you exist? Now, these activities are specifically to people that you already know. The people in your organization, the people who listen to your podcast, the people who already know about you, but need to be reminded, because if you're out of sight, out of mind. So what are the activities you're doing? I wrote down a few things that I consider essential lifeblood awareness activities for every business. Emailing your existing email list, being present on social media, podcasts, your podcast, those are all awareness activities. The W in AWARE is work. It's actually doing the things that people hire you to do. Now, a lot of us can spend so much time doing the work that we've been hired to do that we're not doing the work that actually matters to us. We are just trading time for dollars. We're getting paid for what we do, not for what we know. This is where you also include things like ideation, creation, building future products, courses, lead magnets, talks. This is the book. You're writing a book. This is going to happen in the work you're creating, you're doing. But you can't let this monopolize your time, because the next thing is really where I find most of us finding the time sink, and that's the A, the admin. Now, if you need me to explain what admin work is, maybe there's another course for you to take. But you know what I'm talking about. We're talking about your inbox. How many of you just feel like all day you live in your inbox? All day, somebody wants something from you. Somebody wants to sell you something. Someone needs something from you. They want something for you. And you live your life by other people's plans for it. Your inbox determines what you do with your day. Now, some of you who may have 9-to-5 jobs, you may have a boss that wastes your time in your inbox, that you can't actually do the work that you've been hired to do. Now, the R is the one where most entrepreneurs that I know struggle and fail, and that's revenue. Now, that seems obvious, doesn't it? It seems obvious to have revenue. But if you don't have revenue, you don't have a business. You have a hobby. And I've been guilty of having a hobby. And I think there's been a season for all of us when we realized what was happening in our lives is we left our job that we were working 30 to 40 hours a week on to go and work for ourselves, to work 80 or 90 hours a week. And so many of those hours aren't on the revenue generating activities. I include the things, I call these the lifeblood of your business. They include things like sales, marketing, generating leads, public speaking, what I'm doing right here, strategic collaborations, setting up recurring revenue, and affiliate relationships. Those are the things that make you money. They're the things that allow you to sustain. They are the things that when you do have a rough day, when you hit a rough patch, they allow you to clock out and not apologize for it. I remember somebody asked me a couple weeks ago, said, "What have you been working on this week?" And I looked at them and I said, absolutely nothing. Because I was in a season of recovering and needing a little bit of rest from giving for something on another project. So I chose, I'm going to take a couple of days and refuel and refill. And so many of us run with a candle burning at both ends, and we forget the power of revenue in our business. And the last one is exposure. And these are the activities that most of us are missing out on. I spoke at the thing Nashville last year that most entrepreneurs have a known problem. They have a problem that they're not known for what they do, that for who they are and for how they can serve people. These exposure activities are things you do to get in front of other people's audiences, stages, in person, virtual events, appearing on other people's podcasts, other people's platforms. You know me, done with OPP, podcasts and shows. You know, some of us are struggling in business because we're the tree that fell in the forest that nobody heard. And the best way to be heard is to be known and to be seen. And it's important for you to make that an important part of your business, because your exposure activity is what leads to, if you have a process and a system in place, and Cabrina's going to come speak to us in just a minute about some of those things, specifically like using a webinar to build pieces of your business to grow it, to creating things in your business that allow you to make and generate revenue when you're not actually the one doing it, so you can rest. So I have some questions. I like to interrogate ideas. I like to interrogate the things that I'm doing. So I have 5 questions to go with each of these for you. And if you, I'll put a link to the slides and to the form where you can interrogate your time and your tasks. For awareness, I want to ask this question. Is this activity keeping me in front of my current audience? Is this activity keeping me in front of my current audience? Work. This is the big one. How will I know when it is accomplished? How will I know when I actually did the thing that I set out to do? Because most of us do set goals and set things in place, but they're too ambiguous. My wife and I are very different about goal setting. She likes micro goals. I'm a BHAG goal. I only set goals based on one of the books that I read was You Can Do Anything by a guy by the name of Derek Sivers, who, by the way, is coming on a future episode of the Making Elephants Fly podcast. And he has this belief that he only says yes to things that are hell yeses. Everything for him is either a hell yes or a hell no, and nothing in the middle. Those are the things you want to spend your time on. For admin, here's the question you need to ask yourself. Is this really a task that I should be the one doing right now? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Revenue. Is this activity really generating revenue, and when will I get it? Because a lot of us spend time doing things that we think will make us money someday. Well, tomorrow is the 1st, and my mortgage company is going to expect a payment before a payment deadline. Someday doesn't work for them, and it shouldn't work for your business. And the last question is for exposure. Is this activity that I'm doing introducing us, is introducing the vision, the mission to a new audience. Am I letting people know that didn't know that I exist? And those activities are things that we can go and do in places in other communities, just like all of these people today have given for you guys, so that you can meet and learn about them and learn about their business. And some of them have amazing offers. We've got some amazing speakers still coming. But I want you guys to be aware of where your time is going and who is monopolizing it. And is it really generating revenue? Coming to the stage next, or to the carpet, is Cabrina Budwell, who is an amazing human. Has been part of our community now for a couple of years. Jeff Gowen spoke at the thing a few years ago, and he shared about how a lot of us come through the process of a butterfly. We leave the cocoon, and Cabrina came in the midst of the cocoon, and she's shown up, and she's shown up to serve the community strong. So make welcome Cabrina Ashley this morning.
Go away, monster! My 5-year-old screamed as she took one of the game pieces and slammed it down onto the board. All of a sudden, we were in the midst of a very intense game of Go Away, Monster, which the premise of the whole game is to set up your bedroom, but in the midst of it, you have all the monsters that are coming out of the bag as you do it. And the idea is to get your kids used to the idea that monsters aren't something that we need to be afraid of. A lot of times in business, we look at the things that are happening and we go, this is a monster, I'm not going to deal with it. So we just leave it in our little bag and we never actually finish putting our bedroom together in real life. And so a lot of the times these monsters can be tech. These monsters can be getting in front of people. It can also be just getting that next thing done because we're so overwhelmed of what that even looks like. And what I'm going to be talking to you today is really about how do we get past that tech overwhelm and into a place where marketing isn't something that we are constantly on edge about, that we're constantly sending that email at the last second, that we're doing stuff that doesn't make sense because we're just strung so thin that we don't know how to do it. In fact, 40% of big business has automation somewhere in their business. Only 25% of small businesses do. That means that there's a lot of open area for people. And one of the biggest complaints that I hear is that, oh, this is going to take me out of the business. This is going to make it not personal. This is going to make it to where it feels yucky like everybody else's business. Because we've seen a lot of people do tech, automation, email marketing, social media, all of these things we've seen somebody do it wrong. And in that process, we've just lumped in everything within that branch of technology becomes wrong. And so then we don't try and do anything. So another thing that happened was I had a client that came to me for a strategy call. And they were like, we really want to automate some things. We've heard you talk about this stuff. And we're not sure where to start. What does this even look like? How could I even get to this point where my business doesn't need me all of the time? And then there was the trepidation of, but I need my business to need me. And then I was like, okay, how do we sit and think about this in a way that isn't about you being taken out of your business and not feeling like tech is the bad guy here? And so I sat down and I was like, okay, everybody take a deep breath. If this ideally looked like you wanted it to and your business worked exactly like you wanted, what would that look like? And I want you to ask yourself that today. If everything worked exactly like you wanted, what would that look like? What activities would you be doing? What activities would you never do again? And then I want you to think and ask yourself, what are the things that I do all of the time that I don't really like doing? Or that I've done more than once, even if it is something maybe that you like a little bit. And write all of these things down. Because one of the things that I find with people when they're trying to automate things, they're trying to bring tech into their business, and they get overwhelmed by just going to some text website and going, here's all the features that they can make magically do, but I have no idea what that even looked like in my real business. And so time tracking, what are you doing every day? What does this look like for me? So that way I can go back to that list and say, I'm going to automate my emails. I'm going to automate my social media. And going back to the things that can be done more than once. If we're doing it more than once, there is a system out there that can make it happen. So instead of starting with a system, we're going to actually start with the idea of how does this even look? What does this look like? How do we make this happen for us? But with automation being overwhelming, there's that idea of not knowing where to start. There's too many tools. You only know the bad side of it. What if we could look at it as, what if this was that moment when you open up that Facebook scroll and you go, oh my God, I'm so glad I saw this. That moment that you buy a product and you're like, I'm so glad I saw this at this moment. Or somebody tells you about something and you're like, that was just at the perfect time. This is where we can actually shift everything over into what things can actually look like in our business, so that we're not constantly up in a craziness and feeling all balled up inside about, oh, how am I going to market ourselves? Just like Terry was saying, how are we getting in front of people? Sometimes getting in front of people means getting in front of people in a way that doesn't involve you at all. You getting an email out at the right time, you having a social post that drops at the right time, you having time to think about those things instead of trying to hurry up and drop things that aren't completely thought out. So, like I was saying, we decide what to automate by time tracking and by really thinking about what do we want this to look like. And one of the things that I've seen in several businesses, I just bought some pads for mattresses, because when you are a single mom of 5 kids, doing laundry all the time because somebody decided to accidentally pee in the bed is exhausting. And one of the things that I got from this was, these people know their audience very well. Within their systems, they were able to send me a letter that was based around Christmas and pretended like it was an elf, and they were really thought out. And it was actually gave them more opportunities to be more clever, more fun, more connected than if they hadn't done it. Because this is a very small team. Just like a lot of the people in this room, we don't have tons and tons of employees. Some of us have nobody. Some of us have just 1 or 2 people. And so knowing that can be the best thing for you is, what does this look like moving forward? How do we actually create this bigger idea for us? And so I want you to think about, there's 2 different pieces to this. In tech, most people just think about the tech and the automation, but then we're missing the story. There's story to this. And so I call this the sitter-sat method. When we're thinking about story, intention, and tech, this is where a lot of people are today. I intend to do something. I intend to schedule an email. I intend to schedule my social post. I intend to do X, Y, and Z. And this is where we just sit. We sit in the idea of, okay, this is going to someday happen. The problem is that sit is spelled S-I-T. And so we're focused on I. The intention becomes, okay, what does I have to do? What do I have to do next? What does this look like for me? And we lose the fact of why we're automating in the first place. And so that's why we need to look at SAT. This is the story, action, and then tech. And so we're going to think about the stories that we want to tell. What does this look like for our audience? How are we connecting with them in a way that gets them to the next level, gets them towards what we want them to, but also does it in a way that's fun and exciting? Because one of the most revealing things about the world that we live in is when a piano teacher I was working with looked at me at a park while our kids were playing, and she said, you know, I signed up for this really big person's thing, and I just knew that I was getting funneled. And I was like, wow, we've gotten to the point in the world where this has now become a verb. I've been funneled. And when people start to feel like that and they know what's coming, they stop listening. There's actually a little spot in the back of your brain that blocks a lot of these marketing messages out because it becomes so overwhelming with what we're getting asked constantly by people. So when we look at story, action, and tech, this now becomes about the audience, SAT. And so when we start figuring out the audience, and that it's also past tense. So instead of sit, where I'm in it and I'm thinking about it, and I'm not actually getting anywhere with it, I just have a lot of intentions that are getting out there. Sat means it happened in the past. I sat, I did it, I got it done, and now I've moved forward. And so thinking through that process of what does that look like for you to just get through the process. Because so many times we sit and we look at a computer and we go, oh, that's too hard. I'm not going to do that because it doesn't feel good. Oh, I don't know where all the buttons are. Instead of trying to figure it out and asking for the help that we need, which is exactly why I created Audience Amplifier. Audience Amplifier is all about teaching you how to tell the right stories at the right time so that people are getting that just-in-time message in a way that's fun and feels good, and that you would tell people regularly in an elevator, or when somebody asks about what you do, or when you meet that person that you know that you can help. Because most people get into business because they want to help people, not just because they want to make money. If you're here just because you want to make money, I'm sorry, you're in the wrong business, and you're going to burn yourself out before you're even there. It's the people who actually enjoy helping people and seeing them move to the next level that are the people that make it. Because we really genuinely care about where our people are going and what it looks like for them. So some of the things that we do in Audience Amplifier, it's a 2-day workshop where I hold your hand through the whole entire process. I am a tech nerd. I've been setting up systems for over a decade. And we walk through, what are the stories? What kinds of emails do we need to send to actually land in the inbox? What subject lines get opened? All of those nitty-gritty details, but then all of the actual fun things of how could this actually look like a customer journey that makes sense to people and moves them forward in a way that even if they don't buy from us, they've gotten something really great out of this whole entire process of being with us and working through that process together. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can go to cabrinaashley.com/audience-amplifier and see everything about the program, as well as the several bonuses that I have with it, as well as how to set up a webinar, how to get people into it. Because really, if we don't have people getting into our email list, it doesn't matter how much we've automated, how much we've made these things happen. So we really work through the whole entire process together, and then you get support along the whole way. So you don't have any excuses. You don't have to worry about what does this look like moving forward, because you have people in your corner that can help you get to that next step. Oh, yes, and somebody just asked to repeat it. It's cabrinaashley.com/audience-amplifier.
Sabrina, tech genius. I love this audience amplifier thing. You've talked about it multiple times. I'm new on the stage. I'm going to be talking to you about my thing in a little bit. My name's Diana Alt, and I'm part of this amazing community. And I've been invited to introduce our next person, which is Ryan Hulk. Ryan is quite honestly one of the most brilliant people to package up web design and messaging that I've ever seen. And I don't say that as someone that's just in a mastermind with Ryan and he's my friend. I trusted Ryan to actually overhaul and refresh my website alongside another person that's in Terry's mastermind community, Haley Walden, who is a copywriter. And honest to goodness, over 50% higher conversion into sales calls in the last 2 months since I had my website refreshed. Today, Ryan is going to look at 2 different websites for 2 business owners in very different spaces. One is a coach, one has a bricks and mortar business, and he's gonna just kind of do like a mini audit to help us understand some of the things that maybe we need to look at a little bit closer with our websites in order to get what we want out of our websites, which is an authoritative, really, really powerful way to communicate with the people that we want to serve. So, is Ryan ready to go, Terry? All right, thanks.
Well, hello, everybody. Great to be a part and be here. I am not seeing myself live, so I'm hoping there's maybe just a little bit of a delay here and that you can see me. Um, but it is great to be with you as a group, to be part of the summit. I unfortunately had to miss because of some other things going on in our live right now this week, but I do appreciate the opportunity to be a part. Terry, are we live? I'm not seeing anything. All right. So I have a question for you. I'm actually all about the slides because it helps me kind of keep together. But this morning, so I'm going to use some slides. And this morning, um, we opened with Jason speaking about communication and speaking specifically about how we can connect with our audience. And it made me actually think of a quote, and I went and found it because I've used it in talks in the past. And the quote is from George Bernard Shaw, and it's that the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. And when it comes to websites, when it comes to the message that we share, how we are putting our information out into the world, what we are hoping to engage potential customers with, this is a challenge that I see a lot of businesses, a lot of personal brands, a lot of solopreneurs really wrestling with, is that we are so close to the work we do. We are so connected to the day to day that it sometimes gets in the way of our being certain that the message that we are sharing externally is so super clear for people that they know exactly what action to take place. And so today I actually want to talk about crafting messages and content that drives traffic and leads. Because at the end of the day, the reality is that each of us, you and me, we have businesses that we do because we need to pay the bills. And we need leads and we need website traffic to do that. So the reality is, our businesses, our website is like the virtual front door of our business. It is the way that people are first going to engage with us. It's the way they're first going to connect with who and what we are. And so, what we want to think about when it comes to our website and our website messaging specifically is, what are we doing to tell the story of our business in a way that is warm, engaging, just like if someone walked into a brick and mortar store. Have you had that experience where you walk into a store and you feel like the person wants you there? They want to do everything in their power to help you get an answer to whatever it is that you've come looking for, versus maybe the experience where you walk in a business and it seems like you're actually putting them out for even being there. Our business website has the opportunity to do either one of those two things, to really engage people or to push them away. And what I'm finding after I've been doing this now about 20 years, served roughly 100 or 100 plus organizations in the last decade alone, and built 100 plus websites in the process. And what I've discovered is there are really a few key factors that lead to successful traffic and leads for websites. And when these three things align, things begin to go well. When they don't align, things fall apart very, very quickly. And Diana already alluded a little bit to some of those. And so the very first thing is your messaging has got to be on point. And we're going to dive into that a little bit here in the next few minutes, and specifically some ways that you can think about your website messaging to make sure that it is aligning well, make sure people are connecting with it. The next thing is some key design principles, things that are super important if we want to make sure that we actually don't get in the way of visually presenting the information that people are coming to get from us. And the last thing is SEO. And that actually is a big, scary term for a lot of people. They aren't sure what that means. It's kind of confusing. And so I'm just going to give you some really brief, like high 30,000 foot view things that you can be thinking about for your website, so that you make sure you actually give Google what Google wants to hear. Sound good? Okay, fantastic. So let's jump into it. The very first thing here, when it comes to your messaging, is that online we need a clear introduction. And the reason we need that is because statistically, what we're finding is that website viewers land and hit a website and they make a decision in 5 to 7 seconds about whether or not they are going to stick and continue engaging with this website. The challenge for us as business leaders, or what we have to at least be aware of, is that that means that the majority of website visitors are not going to ever scroll at any level. Okay. Now, if you're on mobile, it's a little different because we tend to do the finger flick to read more. But on desktop, where somewhere in the 40 to 45% of all traffic comes, people only are going to see what's called above the fold, meaning it's physically visible when the website page loads. And so it's really important that in that space, that is the prime real estate. That is the equivalent and monopoly of Boardwalk. It is where the most important thing you're going to share needs to reside. So, what we want to see in that clear introduction is one or two sentences that articulates who this is for, so your audience, what kind of solution you provide, and how you make the world better. I think of it as audience, a solution, so that they get this win. Okay. Now, some businesses will include their business name in that section as well. But the core idea is that at the very top of your page, there is no doubt when I load this, is this a product or service that helps fill a space and a need that I have? And that begins with a clear introduction. Okay. The next piece of this is we've got to make sure that our headlines align. Okay? And if my visual was working over here, you would actually see that there was a website scrolling up so that you could see the content. And what I mean by your headlines is this: uh, people don't read all the copy, the written words on websites. When they come, we're skimmers. We tend to quickly go down a page looking for information that might pertain to us. And so when we are writing website content, we need to keep in mind that a lot of people are never going to read more than our headlines. And if they decide the headlines say something important enough that they want to know more, then they're going to go further and they're going to read, the body text below it. So what we want to do when we're writing content to make sure that it connects is we want to look at our headlines. And one of the first things that I do when I'm doing a website audit, when I'm trying to figure out, hey, are we truly communicating what we need to communicate, is I will pull up just the headlines on the website. And one of the fastest ways for you to do this is to get out a Google Doc, go to your website, and anything that you've set up as a section heading or a headline, you've bolded is I will copy and paste it onto a Google Doc. Okay. And when I get to the bottom of the page, I will go to that Google Doc and I will only read what I pasted into that doc. And it's fascinating how quickly, if I'm only reading the headlines, I can find whether or not I am truly and clearly communicating what is this business, who do we serve, what problem is it, what solution do we provide, how is it unique, what makes us the go-to authority to solve this problem. Is there a clear next step so that the person knows what it is we want them to do if we are the solution for them? So it's just a really fast way that you can quickly know, am I communicating exactly what I think I am? Because then if your section headlines align and are communicating well, then the content underneath each of those sections is just functioning as supporting information to say, oh, here's a little more. Here's a little more details. Oh, yeah, we couldn't put this all in the headline, but here's some more information. So it's a great place for you to start. Okay. The next part of messaging is your calls to action. As businesses, online especially, because we don't have the ability to see people face to face, you can't read body language online when someone comes to visit your website. You aren't seeing exactly what their eyes are looking for, how they're scanning the pages. Is we want to share with people the top actions that we believe that the majority of people who engage with us want to take. For some businesses, that is letting the visitor actually kind of choose. But for most visitors, you have an idea of what next step you want a visitor to your website to take. That may be something like schedule a call or uh, come in for something if you're if you are a brick and mortar, visit the store, um, those type of calls to action, something that's really specific. For others, it may be contact us. So what we want to do on our website is to make sure that that call to action, that thing that we want someone to do that we feel like is the most important next step, that it is incredibly clear as to what that is. And so we want to make sure that we actually repeat those calls to action multiple times on our homepage, because it's really interesting that on mobile, people have a little more willingness to flick and scroll, but on desktop, people don't like to scroll back to the top. So if someone is ever more than a couple mouse flicks away from a button that allows them to take action, they oftentimes won't. So we want to make sure from a messaging standpoint that we have a super clear call to action. I want you to book a call. I want you to schedule an appointment. I want you to contact us. And that whatever that number one first priority action is, that we make it really clear. We even make it a button. You'll see on the image right there, there's a big orange button in the middle. Okay, see it in action. We make it a button that recurs over and over and over on our website so that visitors have no doubt, oh, the action they want me to take on this page is X. Okay, so that's messaging. We've got to start with clarity and a clear intro. We've got to have headlines that really speak for themselves and share the context of our site in general. And we've got to have super clear calls to action. And with the calls to action, that may even include for you an offer, join our newsletter, grab a PDF, something like that. But the whole goal is that it's just got to be clear. Okay, so the next piece is design. Now, when it comes to design, I came out of a graphic design background. So for me, design has a lot to do with the aesthetics. Are the colors nice? Do we have supporting images? Things like that. But online, what I mean by design is really the functionality and how easy it is to get around your website. And that really starts with our navigation. Most of us on a homepage of a website share an overview of our business, a little bit of who we are, what we do, our products and services, an opportunity to connect with us. But for people really to kind of go down the rabbit hole and find out more information, to learn more and engage at a deep level with our business, we've got to make it super clear how to get around from page to page on our website. And so that really starts with our navigation. And that means we've got to think about the menu bar that's either at the top or down the side of our website and what we are conveying. It's really interesting that for a lot of us, we name our things in our business really cool stuff. I run a do a framework called Distill Your Story. So I've got Distill Your Story in the name of lots of things. The problem is that makes perfect sense to me because I know it's about focusing your messaging to accomplish whatever the goal is. But visitors don't know that immediately because they don't have context with me. I have a buddy, Dave Shrine, who for years was like, Ryan, you jump into conversations halfway through like I've been with you for 5 or 10 minutes. I need you to start at the beginning and bring me up to speed. So when we think about our website navigation, we need to do the same. We need to make sure that the words and phrases, the descriptions that we use in our navigation, in those menus, that it makes sense. And that it makes sense if they've never met us and don't know what our products and services are. Okay. So when it comes to your menu is the place to be super, super clear. Are they services you provide? Call the section services. Are they products? Are they resources? Call them that. We love to get creative, but clear over clever always wins the day. So we want to make sure in our navigation that our menu and our submenus are super super clear. And the next thing is I talked in the messaging section about calls to action, but on our navigation, on our menus, it's really interesting in the Western world because we read left to right that people tend to skim website pages in a Z pattern. We start in the upper left, we roll across the top, we come down, and then we come back across. And because of that, the place that people pause and land is in the upper right hand corner of a lot of websites. And so that is your prime real estate for you to put that number one call to action as a big button in the menu, and make it a color that stands out. So blue, green, orange, something that calls attention to it, that fits with your color scheme, your look, but makes it very clear, in my menu navigation, this is we aren't just we aren't just communicating it from a messaging standpoint, but visually now we're supporting it. It is a giant button that conveys with it. Okay, so your navigation's got to be on point. The next thing really is your overall website layout. And this is an interesting piece because for so many of us, um, business owners, this is how most people come to me when they need a website. I get a phone call, um, business in town, I need a website. Great, tell me about it. Well, I just need a website that looks amazing. And so a lot of times as business owners, when we look for websites, when we go to hire someone to help us with the website, we're looking for someone who has the skills to build a website. The interesting thing is that a lot of website designers are amazing at building great looking functional websites, but far fewer of them are thinking about the messaging aspect and the user experience that happens on that website. And so the layout that we put out in our website is super important because it's not just about creating a beautiful site that people are going to love to engage with, but it's about putting the pieces together in a way that makes sense from a structural standpoint in terms of, are we actually logically walking them through steps? Are we sharing important details in the right order? And so the first place that that starts is at the very top. I mentioned it earlier, when your page loads before people ever scroll, that section is known as the hero section. And that is the really the money space on your website. If you are paying for a billboard on Times Square, that is the equivalent on your website. It is where the most important information needs to lie. And so there's some important rules that you ought to be thinking about that will help you convey your message more clearly, okay, in that section. The first one is that that is an ideal place for you to use a still image, okay? For years, the design community wanted to always put a slider there. Oh, if I can show them 8 pictures, people will look at all 8 pictures and they'll sit and they'll read the text I put behind every picture. And what Google found after doing lots of tests and looking at engagement, and then looking specifically at usability by people with disabilities, they discovered some interesting things. And what Google discovered was that the majority of visitors never went more than 3 slides deep. In fact, most of them moved on before it went even through the end of slide number 2. They also found that the text that was shared there made it look like we had 52 specialties, and it confused visitors as to what is this person, what is this business actually about. So, what we do then in the new realm of web development is we want to put a single image there, and once again, a clear statement, as we talked about in the messaging section, of who and what we are. Okay. Um, and when in doubt, avoid sliders. Okay. It is a place that you can use video. I've got customers who are using video in those sections. I can tell you it does pose some technical challenges for using video. So I ideally point customers to using a still image in that section when possible. The other thing about layout is, I already mentioned this in messaging, how important it is that we have repeated calls to action. That number one thing we want people to do is that button resides in every section or every other section. So it's always super, super close. Okay. And that our style and font and color choices and photos visually support the type of organization that we are. I can typically tell you within the first 5 seconds of loading a website, based on the font, the colors, and the type of images, who the audience probably is for that business. And I'm sure that you actually could probably do the same a lot of the time. And so it's really important as we think about the layout that we are thinking about, am I conveying the right thing with these choices? Okay. The last piece in terms of the design elements that are going to make or break how well we are communicating our story is mobile usability. Recent stats have varied a little bit. It's interesting to see global information, but mobile usability is on the rise globally. Somewhere in the ballpark of 75-ish% of the US is using mobile devices to search online. About 55% of all website visits currently in the US are occurring on a mobile device, from a mobile device. So that means that it's super important that the way we design and build a website makes it functional regardless of the size of the device you're watching it on. It's interesting. It's mobile, and then it's desktop, and there's this little tiny amount of tablet users. Tablet users typically count for 5 to 8% of all website visits. But it's important then that we are thinking about, is the text I'm sharing, is the photos, how are those being conveyed online? Do the section layouts make sense? If the font is huge on a desktop, does it automatically adjust so that when you're on a mobile device, it's still legible? I don't know if you've ever had the experience. I've had a number of times where you load a page and you see like 3 letters and line return 3 letters and a line return 3 letters, and like the word takes up 6 lines because something in their setup didn't adjust the font size to work well on mobile devices. So it's really important that we think about, hey, is this going to work on a mobile? Because at the end of the day, if our goal is traffic, our goal is leads into our business, we want to do anything we can do to help facilitate people engaging with us at a higher level. And we don't want the design elements to get in the way of having to do that. The other piece then is for your text, you want to make sure, if you're on a mobile, that I don't have to zoom in and out just to read it. And if you're like me and you are 50 and you've got progressive lenses and you're doing this up, down, up, down, up, down to try and get the right sweet spot with your lenses, anything you can do to help, super, super important. Okay. The last section is SEO. And I'm going to run through this a little quickly because this is some things that you need to be aware of and be thinking about, but you may need some help doing. Okay. The first one is heading tags. And this is one that if you're doing your own website stuff, you can implement really easily, but you need to be aware of it. Okay. Do you remember in early elementary school when they were teaching you how to write, um, and you would start with an outline? It would be, give us your opening big idea. Now give us your first supporting section and a little info below it. Give us your second supporting section and a little info below it. Well, our websites need to be structured similarly. And what I mean is, visually, we've talked about already that you have heading sections and then copy that supports it. That's great. But we want to make sure that our under the hood code actually supports that. And the reason for that is that Google's not looking at the visual of your site. They want to know what you think is most important. Okay. And so that means we want to use what's called H1 and H2, H3 tags. That's essentially saying this is number one, the most important thing. This is number two, the things I think are next important. Number three, the things I think are next important. And it's a way for us to just tell Google what we think is most important. So when they look at our site, they go, oh, yeah, this lines up. You have a single topic, you've got supporting information. That's fantastic. Okay. The next thing you want to be aware of that's super important is your on page tags. And what I mean by this is there's a box in your website builder, at least for most services, there is, that will allow you to say, here's the title I want Google to see. Here's the description I want Google to see. Here's the custom address, website URL that you would type in that I want Google to see. And those are what lets Google know when it sees your site what to put in the search box. You'll notice some of the example files I've got right there on the side that it's, what is that link? What is the text below it? We can tell Google all of those things. Now, if we don't, Google will attempt to fill in the blanks. But I can tell you from personal experience on my site and a number of sites that I manage, Google pretty much just looks at the first 3 sentences and hopes they've got it figured out. So if you want to really make sure that your information is clear and gets in front of people, be looking at your Google, your on-page tagging structures for your site. The last thing is we want to connect all the Google pieces to to Google. And I wish that my photos were there, because what this essentially means is you want to go to Google Business Profile and set that thing up. Tell Google who you are, where you work, how to find you, where your website is. Fill out all of the information about your hours, all the details that they ask for. And it's amazing when we connect the dots for Google, how far it gets us. The next thing is we want to connect Google Analytics. And the reason you want analytics is because it's really cool to be able to see what are people clicking on and why, and where did they come from. So Google Analytics is super important. You set it up with Google, they give you a nifty little code, and they give you multiple ways to implement it. So you could do it, or your web developer could do it for you. The last thing is Google Search, okay? Search Console. And Google Search Console is amazing because you can actually see, how do people find me? And that's great if you're running ads, or you write some new blog content and you're trying to figure out, how are people engaging with it? How did they ask the question that I'm asking? Google Search Console is a great way to connect some of those dots for you. Okay, so we've got these three things. We've got messaging, we've got design, and we've got SEO that are all super duper important for us to know and to connect with. So, as Diana mentioned at the beginning of this, I'm going to actually look at a few websites. And um, I'm going to pull this up here. Give me just one moment. I've got to jump out of my slide deck. Okay. So I want to review a couple sites and just apply some of what I've been talking about here, so that the owners of these sites can actually get some info, but you could actually see a little bit of how I would implement some of this in real time, especially if I was doing an audit or thinking about rebuilding a site for someone. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. Spring Hill Inn and Cottages. Okay, so there are a number of things here. Let's start with talking about some of the messaging things. Hey, Spring Hill Inn and Cottage. I have a pretty good idea based on the logo alone, probably a little bit of what they do. I see here one of Ohio's special places to stay, so I at least know this is probably someplace I'd come for an overnight stay. But what I find if I sit and I start looking through things is they seem to be offering a lot of different information. The For me, as a designer, when I think about how are we marrying the message with the visuals so that people uh, engage with our content, I would be thinking about, what could we be showing here that supports not just an in, but supports some of these other things as well. So I would be looking for some prime real estate in that hero section to talk about the inn, but then directly below it, find some ways to visually represent some of these cool other things that are done that kind of go beyond an inn. If I actually start looking at this, I'm like, oh, you could do retreats here. Oh, you could do, oh, this sounds like there's a lot more than just a husband and wife or a small family coming for a weekend. And so I would be trying to find some ways to visually represent that, as well as writing some copy and some content that would help support those ideas, so that when Google sees the site, they see, oh, there are a lot of other things that are being offered. The other thing that I would be thinking about from a messaging standpoint is, in this upper right hand corner is that number one call to action. And a phone call is great. Uh, I'm not certain that I would lean into asking a question. For me, I think book a call, or speak to a representative, speak to a team member, would be a more powerful call to action for this organization, because of all these other things, my guess is I could book a room as a single adult or as a couple pretty easily. But to find out about these other things, I'm going to need to take some sort of face to face or phone or Zoom call engagement. So I'd be thinking about how could I really use this prime real estate in a little more effective way from a messaging standpoint and from a visual representation. I also would put this in a color that really stands out so that people are certain, that they know exactly what the next step action is supposed to be. Okay? Um, I would also reconsider having this. Feels to me like there are three menus. There's the top section, there's the second section, there's down the sidebar. And that was a design style for a long time, but that's not really a design style that is still being used. So I would try and find some other ways from we talked about navigation in the design section, to find navigation that could be put here somehow or connected as drop down, some way to get to that information, but not use the sidebar in quite the same way. The other thing is, I looked at the site earlier, um, is that it would be really helpful. This site is not super mobile friendly. It's one that I have to zoom and pinch to read content on smaller devices. So I'd be finding some ways to share this information because I think the information is important that it's shared. But to do it in a way that automatically changes for your mobile usability to be a little bit higher. Okay. So um, the other thing that I would think about is, um, news and blogs is a great way for us as business owners to share key moments in our business, either key opportunities, key things we're trying to teach, information we're trying to get out. And so, anytime that we can share that information, but we can also connect a visual element to it, is super helpful. So I would be looking for some ways to maybe break these into a blog section and a news section, but to have a visual, to have an image that is followed by text, a text blurb that is clickable to get more information because people just engage with visual elements so much better. So those are a few ideas on Spruce Hill of some things that I would maybe do to kind of get things started. Okay. I want to look at this one. This is Dreamcatcher Coaching LLC. You'll notice here on this site that this is one that has a video that plays in that hero section. And this, for me, is a place that I think they could really benefit from making sure that there is some text content here over this video, if that clearly says who do they serve, what is the audience, what solutions do they provide, how do they help people do things better, and then have a big call to action button for people to take their next step. As you notice here, when this loads and video starts playing, the video content looks really nice, but it's hiding me from seeing any of that additional information. I actually have to scroll down the page a little bit and I have to kind of read into some things, information, dream catcher, career coach. Okay, career coach, where you can dream big, plan. Um, so, like for instance, these three things, these sound great. I think I understand what those mean. For me, those read as some of those items that need a little bit of context to understand. Those aren't phrases that someone would type into a search to find a career coach for. Work happy, possibly, but they aren't phrases that immediately come front of mind. So I would be thinking about, hey, these are great to share, but they're maybe not the most important thing to share at the top of the page. Okay. And once again, there needs to be a button here. One other idea in terms of the menu structure of this website is I mentioned earlier that we read from left to right and kind of in a Z pattern, and that upper right hand corner of your website is super important for your number one calls to action. For that reason, I would actually swap this side where the phone number is and this free resume tip and reverse their order. My guess is that this resume tip sheet button is not being clicked very much at all. Uh, in fact, I actually, while I think that's an important offer for people, I don't think that's probably the number one step that Dreamcatcher Career Coaching wants people to take. My guess is they want them to book a call, they want them to contact us. So it may be even that a better use of it would be to put a giant button over here on the right that says what that most important call to action is. Okay, so as you scroll down, you'll see they're actually doing a little bit of what I mentioned for the Spring Hill. Is that an image with supporting information being a great way to get some of those details out because people are so visual. Um, One thing that question that I do have is, um, because I have a little question as I'm reading this content. Okay, something about career coaching, but I don't really know what they do. Don't really understand yet. I don't have context for what I'm reading more about. Um, these descriptions could use, in my opinion, a little more fleshing out so that they are more understandable at a very first glance for someone who doesn't yet understand the Dreamcatcher kind of ecosystem and how all the pieces work for you helping them with career coaching. Um, I like to think about when it comes to these kind of headings, is this a phrase that someone would Google? Would they understand this? Okay. If it's not a phrase that someone would Google, then and I feel like I have to use it, then I've really got to make sure the supporting information helps, really convey that information totally and completely. The other thing that I would consider here, and this is something Diana mentioned at the beginning that I've helped her with, kind of figuring out the structure and some of the communication points for her website. And one of the big things that we really spent a lot of time on was how do we clearly articulate the products and services that she provides. And something that I think could be done with a little more clarity here is I'm assuming that these three things tie to products and services. So if I click learn more, I'm going to assume that it takes me, yes, to a products and services page. Okay. Now, products and services are an interesting thing, and it's something for you to think about on your website. Is how much information do you want to convey? How much information does the reader need to know before they make a phone call with you? Okay. And if they are ready to act, this is a ideal place at the end of listing each service to have a link that takes them to whatever the next step is for that product or service. Now, for a coach, it may be, sign up or contact us. If you're another business and your number one product is we do solar panels, and your number two is we do solar roofs, and your number three is we do battery backups, well, then it's very likely that each of those services, when you got to the bottom of explaining them, would have a very different call to action. And so it's a great place for you, even on your services page where you're giving people a bird's eye view of what you do, to make sure you always have a clear action step button that is right there for people to take at the drop of a hat. Okay. The other thing on About Us pages, I love to think about Us pages as being kind of a hybrid between this is where we started and this is how I'm an authority. And so it's a great opportunity for you to share a little bit about both of those. Shelly here has talked a little about her background, her experience. Um, I think this is once again an ideal place to have a call to action button for whatever her desired next step is for her business. Okay. So I hope those are some decent kind of starting ground pieces for people to get an idea of what might be next in terms of websites, what they could be thinking about on your sites, how you might actually implement some of that information. Um, Second here, I'm switching over here back to my slide deck. Okay. So I've talked a lot about messaging, design, and SEO. The reality is that I know for the majority of the businesses that I work with from a messaging standpoint, from a web development standpoint, that they often need a little encouragement. They need some hand holding. They need some help to figure out how am I really going to share all of the breadth of what we do in a clear, concise, and compelling way online. And so, what I would love to help you with is I'm running a website messaging cohort that starts the second week of March, and it's going to run 6 weeks. And in that, we're going to do individualized attention to how can we share the story of your business. We're going to run through my frameworks. You're going to get templates, information, and the idea is that at the end of the 6 weeks, the 5 core pages that you need to have written for every small business website, you're going to have the core of that content written so that it can be implemented by someone on your website, or you could send to your team, you could do it yourself, but that you get through the core messaging so that we know that the message we're sharing helps turn leads on our website into customers. And so distillyourstory.com/leap day will get you information about that, or this QR code. Not totally sure how well you can see the slides, but I hope that is beneficial for you. And I'm going to stop my sharing here because I think that it's about time for us to jump back over to everybody who is up in the mountains. Terry, how are we coming over there? Are we about there?
Make sure that I'm disrupted. Well, thank you, Ryan, for that. We are just powering through here. If someone would bring me my drink, that would be fantastic. One of the things we did this week is we went to downtown Flavortown, so I officially now have a yellow Fang Colors Guy Fieri Yeti cup. So if you ever want to go to downtown Flavortown, apparently I can take you now. So Linda Westfall is here, and Linda, thank you. Linda is one of those people that showed up at the thing that one of her other attendees invited, and I was like, I hope she likes it, because we're weird, but I think she's weird enough to fit right in with our weirdness.
Absolutely.
So Linda, tell us a little bit about you and what your business does and how you ended up in our crazy community somehow.
Well, again, I'm Linda Westfall. I'd like to say hi to everyone. What I do is basically 2 businesses. It rolled into one. The first one, I teach software engineers, software practitioners, software quality people,
everything they didn't learn in college, but need to know to be successful in their careers when they are developing, maintaining, or acquiring software. When you go to college, they teach you languages, they teach you data structures, they teach you algorithms, and that's about maybe 10% of the job. But you've got to learn how to elicit and analyze requirements, how to test those requirements, how to do configuration management and auditing and quality and all of the other activities that make up the other 90% of the job. So I basically, after 20 plus years of doing it, 25 years ago I started my own business. So I've been doing software for 45 years plus. I just stopped counting and put a plus sign behind it.
What computer did we have 45 years ago, Linda?
Well, 45 years ago, the first computer I ever worked with in college was a big IBM 360 that was behind a big glass wall. And I don't know if the younger generation even knows what a punch card is anymore, but we used to type onto these yellowish gray cards, and they'd make little holes. And if it was a 0, there was no hole, and if it was a 1, it punched a little hole. So we actually, when we were typing, it was converting it to machine language as you went. And then you put all your punch cards into a card reader. The first computer I ever touched with my own hands was a little PDP-8E desktop that had 8 switches. Again,
Wow.
up for 0 and down for 1. And if you loaded all 100 plus bootstrap instructions correctly, and remember each instruction is 8 switches, push a button to load it. 8 switches, push a button to load it. If you put all 100 or so in correctly, it would read the paper tape operating system.
So,
On average, it took me about 4 hours to get my computer up after a power failure. And we think Windows is slow today, right?
so you've seen literally the evolution of technology. You've seen, the personal computer come around. You've seen.
I was the only female in the company that wasn't a secretary when we went to PCs from typewriters.
Oh, wow.
So they had me teaching all the secretaries because they felt it would come better from a female, how to use a computer and use a word processor, etc. So yeah, I've been there, done that.
You were here to see Al Gore invent the internet,
Oh yeah.
and you've made it. You've made it all the way through. What do you think? Because it feels like we're at a shift now. It feels like you and I got to spend some time kind of delving into some AI technology and how you could use it in your business. And you were like a 7-year-old kid, like trying to learn it and wanting to embrace it. You come at this from a very, most of the time when we see somebody that's, of retirement age, we don't necessarily think that they're going to want to be learning. And you've proven the opposite to me, that you just show up and you want to learn and you want to dive in. You want to hire experts to teach you how to do it and fill in the blanks. What are you thinking about all this like shift and change? Because I think what really makes people successful is their ability to manage a shift and change and kind of ride the wave and come out on the other side of it.
Well, when I first started doing programming, computer science back in the day, you would have one software engineer per project and 20 or 30 electrical engineers or mechanical, all the people building the hardware, because hardware was the majority of the system and software was, 5 or 10% of the system. Now it's very much the opposite. In fact, all of us today use software continuously. I mean, I always say software rules the world. It's kind of my comment that in this day and age, we don't do anything, including buying groceries at the store or whatever. Everything's done with computers these days. All of our businesses, when we're entrepreneurs, and I'm always discovering something new. I mean, there's always new things to learn. And that's what I find so fun about software, because I am very much a continuous learner. On the other side, some of the basic practical applications haven't changed in 40 years. the concept of controlling your software and doing good configuration management. I resisted the longest time writing a configuration management course because I'm saying, we learned that back in the 60s and 70s, and then I realized I had a customer who basically came to me and said, we're willing to pay you money to write a configuration management course because we need it so desperately.
So why in the world, with all of these decades of knowledge, do you hang out with us? Like, what attracted you to this? Like, what attracted you? I mean, you've been doing this longer than almost all of us have been alive in here.
Well, yeah, I've had my own business for 25 years now.
And, I don't think any of us are 25, but that 45 part, most of us either hover a little above it or a little below it or right around it. So what is it that, when your friend Diana invited you to come to this conference, what is it about this conference that makes you keep coming back and this community and the thing, and what made you want to come here this week?
Because I am an entrepreneur. I mean, yes, I delve, my business is in the tech arena, in the software programming arena, but I still have to run a business. I have to market, I have to advertise, you're aware, I have to do everything that you're talking about. And this is something, while I have years of experience in software and technology, I don't have years of experience, even though I've had a business for 25 years. Most of it was word of mouth, and now things have changed, and especially with COVID, that's about the time I started coming, was the first thing after COVID.
You came to your first thing was the thing at the house, which is kind of what we sort of recreated in a different kind of way this week.
Absolutely.
And we said, hey, we're not going to let this stop us because people still learn. In fact, your friend Diana was one of those people that registered for the event when it was originally scheduled in May, and she said, dude, you need to figure, you're a smart man. You have information, you can figure this out. And so thanks to Leslie and some kind of just thinking and the processing and trying to figure out, we figured it out, and she helped us. We built a small team to pull it off, and it was one of the most rewarding, exhausting things I've ever done in my life. But I've just been. You said to me this morning, I'm not 100%. So I had to go take a minute after you said it. You said, do you guys like me? I'm like, am I welcome
Do
here?
I belong here?
Do I belong here? And that's kind of the thing with me and what I do in this community, is that everyone belongs.
Absolutely.
My shirt says it all: the dreamers, the doers, the creators, the mavericks, the leaders, the movers, and the shakers. And it's inspired by that line from the very, very first Willy Wonka, the really good Willy Wonka. And there's a Ronald Dahl, when he wrote the book, there's an author, Shat, I never can say his last name, but he wrote a poem about, we are the dreamers, we are the music makers. And that moment when they're in there smelling the wallpaper and some of the schnozberries smell like schnozberries. And I realized that, what makes us better is when we are willing to humble ourselves, maybe to learn from people that may not have as much experience, but have a ton of experience in an area that we don't have any.
Yeah.
And you have shown up to every one of these events. You're normally the first person in the room yelling at us because you might not have started on time. You've got your pen and paper and your notebook, and you're ready to go.
I'm totally left brain, folks. Schedules are something that I live to. So, my webinar series that I do every Wednesday starts at 12:01, because I learned from some people that if you tell them 12 o'clock, that means plus or minus 10 minutes. If you tell them 12:01, you start at 12:01, and people will show up at 12:01. So that's one of the techniques I use. But yeah, I'm all about timing. I'm sorry, I frustrate you, and you probably frustrate me. But
well, no, it's the matter of when we do these things, we're kind of doing stuff. Even just the technology to pull this off. We're in a log cabin on top of a mountain, that's got high-ish speed internet, and we're trying to make the tech work, and we're trying to, we have people not be able to come, so we're trying to use remote tech to bring them in, and we've had people get colds this week, and we're rolling with it. Like, and that's what entrepreneurship really is.
Absolutely.
It's adapting to whatever the circumstances that are staring in front of you at that day. And you get to make a decision. Are you going to adapt and change? Or are you going to choose irrelevance and just fade into the sunset? And what I love the most about you, Linda, is you've said, I am going out hitting. I'm going out swinging. You know, I love you love what you do. And I think, you know, you are the epitome of if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. You love what you do.
Yep.
You found something that lights you up. You talk about software like little kids talk about chocolate chip cookies. Although I have discovered this week that you love your pina colada jelly bellies and your lemon Oreos. So we know those things that you're. And in reality, you're just.
I'm passionate about life. What can I say? I'm 70 years. I just turned 70 last month, and I feel like I'm still in middle age. I love. Brendan Burchard says, describe yourself in 3 words. Well, I use 4. I am a teacher, I am a learner, and I'm a continuous improver.
And you're a rule breaker. You just proved that because you had to add another word.
Well, continuous improver. Just put a dash in between
Yeah.
it, and it's 1 word, right? But yeah, I literally, if life isn't full of passion, I had one gentleman tell me once, one of my co-managers when I was working at the telecom company, tell me, Linda, why are you so passionate? Why are you such a pioneer? He says, pioneers end up face down in the dirt with arrows in their back. And I told him, it's the only way to live. If you're not full of passion, if you're not constantly having adventures, you're sitting around on your butt watching television. Yeah, I do a lot of television watching. When you're 70 years old and got bad knees, you play couch potato some, but you know, I work all the time because I love what I do for work.
You shared something. I asked you to bring your pen up here.
Yeah, ask me to bring my pen.
I said, I want you to bring your pen to our conversation.
I was talking to the whole group the other day, and I said, when I went and sold, one of the things I do is volunteering. And I actually chaired the effort to create the Certified Software Quality Engineer exam, which is one of the quality certifications through ASQ. And when I went and sold that to the board of directors and told them we need this, again, software rules the world. And I used as an example a pen. Now, where's the software here? I will bet any amount of money to any of you that software was used to build this thing. There was some kind of automated robotic manufacturing system.
It was designed on software.
It was designed on software, CAD/CAM system. Its parts were purchased over some kind of computer network and then managed through an inventory control system. It was sold online. It was delivered through FedEx or UPS that was all managed and tracked through software. Except software came on basically every aspect of creating, building, shipping. Well, I don't use software when I use it, but
you're probably interacting with software and writing something on paper.
Yeah.
That you're getting from software.
But anymore, everyone's life is touched continuously by software. And if that's bad software, if it's software full of bugs, this is why I'm so passionate about software quality. Because in this day and age, I mean, it used to be not this way, but in this day and age, your very life on a daily basis depends on software. Every time you get on an airplane,
software.
Every time you make a telephone call, especially if it's 911. Okay, our lives, the gasoline that came to your local gas station was monitored, measured. You know, the software goes down. 9/11, I always said, why are they running into infrastructure that's physical buildings? What would have happened if they took down the air traffic control system or took it over? What if they broke into NASDAQ and zeroed everybody's stock exchange
Mhm.
shut it down or zeroed everybody's bank account in this country.
Which is what someone's hopefully building software
yeah,
right now to keep that from happening and to protect. Because the more things we depend on, the more subject we are to its whims and its flaws.
when I bought a new air conditioning system last summer, it's a part of the Internet of Things. It's literally hooked up and they upload new software when they need to fix something. And I don't even have to worry about it. In fact, I can get off an airplane, get on their app, and turn the temperature up in my house because I turned it down before I left, right? Now I can turn it back up so that it's warm when I get home.
Very cool. Well, Linda, thank you so much for just sharing with being here this weekend and sharing a little bit of your story. You know, I invited you. I said, "Hey, would you like to speak?" And you're like, "No, I'm not done a lot of interviews." And so
Let's practice interviews.
let's practice. So we're working on a season right now where we're gonna try. You've got a new book coming out and another one that you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna go on a season of, where you're gonna go out and be interviewed by people, through software.
Hopefully.
And so I wanted to give you a chance. And
well, that was one of the great things about this Mastermind in the Mountains is we each get to pick something and then the whole group works to help you brainstorm. So what I picked, like you said, I have a new book coming out. How do I market it? And that was my question. And I got a tremendous amount of great ideas from this group because they've done a lot more marketing than I have. Again, with my 25 years of owning my business, I was getting business word of mouth through lots of friends and lots of contacts. Networks are important, but if you want brand new customers you don't know, you've got to market.
You've got to get that
And
exposure.
that's what I'm trying to learn.
You're going to do that exposure that we talked about of awareness. Well, Linda, thank you so much for being a part of this community. Thanks for sharing with us today. And thanks for your friendship and just always just showing up fully you.
Thank you very much for having me.
We're gonna keep going. We're gonna switch out some because literally there's no everyone here is on camera, so we're gonna take these chairs out. Renee Vidor is gonna come up and share with us for a few minutes, and I'm excited for you. I love Renee. I love her heart. I love her passion for helping people and seeing people win. And so I don't know about you, but in the rest of 2024, I want to win. And so Renee is going to help us do that.
Excellent.
You don't have to take the chair. I'll take it. All yours, Renee.
All right. Thank you so much. Hey there online. I've been watching online and watching here live. It's been great so far. I want to talk about something that's going to go a little bit different than what you have been listening to thus far, but you're also going to see threads of the same talk. The reason is because when we are growing our businesses, it has to do with something more than just the business itself, doesn't it? It actually has to do with who we are as a person. I want to ask a question of everyone here and online. What is your business persona? What is your business persona? That may be very difficult to answer, or maybe it's super simple because you're like, yeah, I've already done all the marketing, I know all my branding, I know exactly what my business persona is, just like I know my audience personas. But I'm going to ask you to go a little bit further. And I want you to ask yourself, is my business persona matching up with my personal persona? And if it isn't, does it even matter? So that's what I'm going to talk about right now, is your business persona holding you back from taking your next best leap? Here's where it starts. When I was about, I was an early mom, I was a young mom, and I was getting into business. I wasn't very business savvy, but I was an entrepreneur at heart. And I knew as a stay-at-home mom, I needed to get out there and do something, but I wasn't quite sure what. So I joined a business networking thing. It was a bunch of moms, a bunch of women, and it was wonderful. I met great friends, but there was this one little piece missing. I didn't have much of a business. Now, I had a network marketing company that I was a part of, but to be honest with you, it wasn't something that I was actively growing, but I decided to take that on as my business persona. So here I go to this networking group and I meet all these amazing business women, right? Except one little thing. As I got to know each one, I noticed a difference between some of them. One of them specifically, I really looked up to and I thought, wow, this lady is just so amazing. She's got it going on with her business. She knows exactly what she's doing. I want to work with her. I want to figure out how to be like her. So I started kind of following it around in a way and like, stalking online, all that stuff. And everything looked great. But guess what? She was putting forth a faulty business persona. To be completely honest, she was just doing the fake it till you make it. And who she was in person was not the same as who she was in this business persona. So I have to tell you, I didn't have a very good respect for her after that. Because here's this person I was looking up to that had such a great business going on. And you know what? It didn't matter whether or not she actually had a good business going on. It was the fact that I liked her as a person and I liked this fake business. But if she had been real as a person and real about her business, then I would have been like still so in love with this woman, right? But she put on a faulty business persona. So why does it matter? Why does it matter what your business persona is? Well, I'm going to tell you a few different things. If you have a fake, faulty, or false business persona, it's going to inhibit you from leaping forward because of the relationships. Number one is relationships. As you noted with this woman, she was able to get me in on the personal side, right? I wanted to be her friend. She was wonderful, but it inhibited the ongoing business. When I did have a business later, I didn't trust her. I knew her and I liked her, but I didn't trust her because she had put forth this, I've got it all together and my business is so spectacular and it's higher up than everybody else's. We all know that marketing is important and we need to put our best foot forward. But if we are so concerned about faking it until we make it, we're actually going to turn people off. Because guess what? This world these days, you can find out who people really are. I was talking to Cambrina earlier, who you heard an amazing message from, and just saying, she's a really good digital stalker. And I know that she could find out exactly who you really are, what your revenue is, all these details that, guess what? It doesn't make who you are, but what it does is if you embellish or you put things forward that aren't true, it's going to determine that you do not have good integrity. Some other reasons with the relationships is you're not going to be able to connect well with others. When you're falsifying yourself, guess what? You're also lying to yourself. And so you're not going to connect well with others. I've learned that firsthand. I'm a recovering comparaholic. Literally, I wrote the book on it. And when I was all worried about measuring up to other people, I wasn't connecting well with them. In fact, I was so worried about myself and how I looked to other people that I no longer was able to think about them. We heard about that earlier too, didn't we? About the I and the A. We have to worry about other people, how they feel. That's what good businesses do. They're looking at their customers. They're looking at their avatars. They're looking at the individual in front of them. And they're looking at how can I serve them? Not how can I make sure that I look okay? And how can I make sure that all of my achievements and everything stack up to all the other people out there doing a similar thing that I am? You see the difference? Those relationships, you can't connect when you're not having good integrity with yourself or with others. Another thing is that you are not going to grow. Now you might say, yeah, right, Renee. I'm going to grow because I watch other people completely faking it till they make it and they're growing. But here's something to consider. Are they going to collapse? Because the truth of the matter is, when you build on a faulty foundation, your cards are going to fall. People are going to find out who you are. And that growth, whether it's financial, whether it is the connections and collaborations that you've made, whatever that growth looks like for you, it's not going to stand the test of time. And maybe you know some people who so far it has. But I'm just telling you right now, if you're building on something that is not sustainable because you can't sustain that fake persona, that business persona you're putting forward, and you think, oh, it's okay, I'll grow into that. Eventually, you're going to keep faking it forward. And as you continue faking it forward, because you have to keep measuring up to the next business persona that people expect from you, it's going to crumble. And if not, your mental health will crumble. That's the next one. So we have relationships, we have mental health. It's not just mental health, it's actually your whole being. You know that your relationships impact your actual physical health. If you don't have good relationships with others, and if you feel like people don't like you, then it's going to impact your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, your spiritual health. So this is a whole being. So we're not only talking about the one little business revenue, which is really important, by the way. We do need to make revenue, as we heard Terry say. But if we're not being who we are called to be, literally as the person we are, as well as the business person that we are, then it's all going to come down collapsing. So relationships, ourselves, and lastly, we are not going to be able to have the ideation that we need, the creativity. Because when we're looking around at everybody else, guess what? We're actually not going to grow because we're only looking at what other people are doing. We're not using our own innate creativity. And it's really important. It's important to dive into your calling, your business, and how you serve people because you do it differently than anybody else. So next, I'm going to ask you, how do you know if you have a fake persona, a fake business persona? There's a couple different things that you might be thinking. For one, you may be thinking, I have to have it all together. If you think that you have to look like you have it all together, then you're trying to measure up to a fake business persona. If you are around people that are telling you that you're not good enough, then you're probably in the wrong group. Okay? You want to be around people who are actually helping you to have a consistent personal and business persona. Next is if you have false humility. Anyone guilty of false humility? Like, yeah, like it's okay. I'm really not that good. Yeah, it's okay. No, we're not here talking. Yeah, I've just talked about people who are embellishing, but we're also talking about that false humility and that fake persona of you're not really good enough. And I'm guilty of this, guys. I'm going to be completely authentic with you and transparent and tell you that even yesterday on my hot seat, or my help seat, yeah, we're helping each other here. But even on my help seat, I was able to get to the bottom of, yep, okay, you're not being confident in this particular area that you're good at. And once we can recognize and see that, we can start to step into our true business persona. Because my personal persona is that I know that I am able to coach very well with individuals. I know that I can make revenue. I know all these amazing things. But then when I put on a business persona, am I matching up with that true personal persona that I know about myself? No, honestly, I'm not. Many times I'm stuck in that little false, I'm not good enough, imposter syndrome. So we need to clear the way for that as well. And that's one indicator. Another indicator is if you are constantly seeking others' approval. If you are constantly seeking others' approval. If you feel like your business isn't good enough unless you have approval from others, then you are most likely having a false business persona. Because you're worried instead about what other people are thinking instead about what the numbers say. Go back to your metrics. Go back to what are your customers saying about you? What are the people that you're serving and you're helping? What are they saying about you? Don't worry about the people you meet networking. Don't worry about the influencers online. Don't worry if you're not following this person's framework or that person's. Go back to the truth of your personal matching up with your business persona. So those are a few different indicators. There are many, many others, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you 3 different, very practical, okay, we're talking no fluff here, but practical ways to help your business persona become more true to you. Number 1, write this down. Have a very clear purpose statement. a clear purpose statement. Now, this statement is one that you might call it a mission statement. You might call it a vision statement. And guess what? All those can have different meanings. And they can also be the exact same thing. But whatever you want to call it, I want you to write a very clear statement of exactly what your goal is and why and how you're going to get there. And why it's important to have this is because whenever you start to go off into that little bit of indicators of false business persona, I want you to come back to this statement. This statement is basically your identity piece for your business. And it better match up to even who you are as a person, because if those are in conflict, again, it's going to crumble. So your purpose statement, have that clear and ready to go. Number 2, find a community that is supporting you and helping you with your true business persona. Not one where you have to show up acting, fake it till you make it. Not one where you have to show up flashy. And guess what, guys? You might think, well, some of you know me, and you know if I've been here in this cabin, I'm wearing sweats. In fact, guess what? I just switched out of my hoodie to put this on. So is Renee being fake? No, this is also me. You're just not going to find me wearing it every day hanging out in the cabin. But guess what? I don't know if you can see it, but I got my slippers on still. So still be who you are. Be who you are, but make sure you have a community where you can be that person too, so that you don't have to be stuck in a box of being a fake business personality, and your business brilliance can shine. Number 3, this puts it all together. I want you to win. That's an acronym. Write it down. W-I-N. W, weigh your cost of what it is going to do for your business if you continue having a fake business persona. What's it going to do? It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you a lot of time. It's going to cost you relationships. It's going to cost your mental health. Break it down. Know what your personal costs are for your business costs, because you're investing in this business. You're investing. It's important. You're doing it for a reason. So what is the cost of having a fake business persona? Then the I, go back to your identity. Remember that purpose statement? That is your business identity. Go right back to that and remind yourself often. If you want to write it on your mirror, if you want to make sure it's on your laptop right where you open it up, read it often so that you are rehoning yourself into that business persona that you know is exactly who you're called to be for your business. The N is navigate your journey. Remember that community? When you're feeling that fake business persona, or when you just went to a networking group and you feel like crap, right? Like you're like, oh my gosh, everyone's telling me how awful I am. Or I felt like I had to just show up fake. Go back to your community. Let them restore into you the truth of your brilliance. Make sure that you are in a space that you are able to be who you're created to be in your business world as well. We have that oftentimes in our personal world, but if you don't have that specifically for your business, others that get you, other entrepreneurs, other business-minded people, it's going to be tough. And you're going to have to show up fake in your personal world as well. So make sure that you are, as I said, having a clear purpose statement, having that community, using that WIN method, weighing the cost, innovating your identity, navigating that business journey. And I promise you that you are going to be able to become more of your ideal, authentic business persona. And your audience is going to be attracted to you in such a way that your business is going to win too. Thank you. Here comes Terry with his wonderful coat.
It almost matches your jacket.
Oh, you're right. It kind of does.
It's yellow adjacent.
This is my thing jacket.
Renee, why in the world did you come here this week? Like, what was it that just said, I'm going to step away from my life and come hang out in a cabin with a bunch of weirdos?
I love mountainous areas. I love outdoors. So that right there is a win for me. I like the atmosphere. I love the people. I mean, these are friends of mine. These are community of mine. And I know that getting to know people better is a great way to invest further. And for me to refer them more, to know more about how I can support them and how they can support me. And lastly, I love masterminding. Masterminding is something that, I'll be honest, I hadn't with this group before. And while I've led retreats and we do masterminding and such, honestly, I wanted to see another way that people do it. And it's been very, very similar to how I do. So it's been great.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
And I'm weird, so who knows that you would like figure out that like we both would do it in a similar way.
Well, see, okay, I'm weird too. I mean,
Yeah, well.
right.
All right, Renee, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
and hanging out with us. Well, we're ebbing and flowing and changing. Mike Brennan was supposed to be with us today, and he's not quite made it down the stairs yet. It seems like the cold has tipped the scales. So here's what I'm going to do for Mike. Mike's actually coming back to Nashville when we leave here tomorrow, and hopefully he'll be well enough. And we'll record something together over the next couple of days, and I'll share it with you guys, either on a live or to the email list. Make sure if you're watching on my website, that down below you can make sure you're on the waiting list for Thing tickets. They were going to go on sale today, but technology beat us today, and honestly, just you can't be perfect for everything. And so sometimes you have to, as an entrepreneur, and I love that we're going to close with this. You have to kind of pick things. And you have to pick like, okay, well, here's our option. We could get the tech right. We could get it perfect. Or we could just do the dang thing and hope that it serves as many people as it can serve. There may not be all the things that we wanted to happen as part of it. But that's the importance of just showing up sometimes. And Diana Alt is one of those people that shows up all the time. No one has invited more people to the Thing events than Diana. Diana has been in my coaching program, my mastermind program. She's kind of started in the, my intro to Terry group, and kind of moved herself up into my elite mastermind, and is honestly more like family than she is a friend or a client. And that's really how I feel about all of these people. This is really just a family reunion in the mountains, just with. Instead of bringing Jello molds to our potluck, we bring our business ideas and our brilliance and our willingness to admit that we need help. And I think that's the thing that I've seen in Diana, is when she doesn't know how to do something, she's the first to raise her hand and say, "I need help. I need help from more than one person." It takes a village to raise a Diana, and so. And I think you'll see that in all of these people that you've seen and heard from today, and many of the other ones that are probably done in the comments on either on YouTube or on Facebook. They're all just people that really believe in this idea that we get to do the thing we're called to do. And so, if you'd like to join us at the Thing, be sure and maybe leave a comment and say, "I want to go to the Thing." The Nashville dates are the 14th and 15th of June, and I should have these memorized, but. Orlando is the second weekend in November. That's why they make calendars, guys. And I'm using it. So, see? I know how to use a calendar. The 14th, 15th, the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, right? Is that right? No. 8, 9, 10. 8, 9, 10 is the Thing Orlando. And tickets are about to go on sale. I'm going to give you guys a special code. Hint, it's going to be LEAP to get an offer for the next week. And then we're going to start raising ticket prices. And so I'd love for you guys to join us and get to know this community. And if you need help or service from any of the people, I'd be happy to connect you. If you need a community to be a part of, or you need a mastermind group, I'm not sure where our next live in-person mastermind will be. We're all kind of talking about some ideas. We may end up back here. We may end up on a boat. We may end up across the pond. So we'll just see. And I hope that you can join us at one of the Thing events in Nashville or Orlando. And Diana is going to come close this down. And then when she's done, I'm just going to stop the feed. You don't need to hear from me. Diana's going to close as well. And maybe before you get started on your talk, just maybe tell us a little bit about why this community matters to you.
My talk kind of is a little bit.
Okay.
I think we're gonna unpack it.
Okay, unpack.
In this. So I love the people in this room. If I end up failing to look at the camera, it's because I'm looking at my family across the living room and into the kitchen here in this cabin. So, but the main person I want to really hone in on, whether this is you in this moment or whether you've been this person at some point in your career or your business, is the one that says, next best leap sounds great. All of these things that Terry, Linda, Leslie, Cabrina, Renee, Jason, who's already in a lift on his way home to spend time with his family, have had to say are important, but I am exhausted. I am overwhelmed. I'm going to tell you a little story that goes over about 15 months of my life, of how I went from kind of ready to collapse and asking a lot of crazy questions about whether I should still be in business or not, to the point where I actually have a roadmap for my business that feels really clear. So in 2022, I lost $37,000 in my business. Now, part of that was intentional. I sold some property, some personal property that had a capital gains. And so I was doing a little bit of that thing that we do where we game the taxes by spending extra money in 2022, to just like make my tax burden better. But I did not have an awesome 2021 or awesome 2022 in terms of profitability in my business, because I was, number one, still figuring out what the hell I was doing. And number two, I also had encountered that I have several autoimmune conditions and other medical conditions, and I've been fighting them. I was in the situation, and sometimes still am, where I don't know if I'm going to get 1 hour of effective work out of myself or 8 hours of effective work out of myself in a day. So, but I made a decision for 2023. I made it at the Thing, Orlando, in 2022, right after I had closed on the property that I sold in my personal life, that by God, I was going to be profitable in 2023. That was my metric. I didn't even necessarily know exactly how I was going to do it, but even if I only had on my P&L $1, that was going to be my goal, because I had been investing so much in my business, but not having a clear path to sustainability, that this was important to me. So I decided that that was my goal. I talked a lot to Terry about it. I thought about my business with a new lens when I was at the Thing Orlando in 2022. And at the beginning of January, I love New Year's. So at the beginning of January 2023, I was excited to do all the things. I wanted to do all the things. I wanted to start a blog. I wanted to start mastering SEO. I wanted to create a beautiful website like Ryan Wolk talked to us about. I wanted to do all the things so that I could be profitable in 2023. And you know what? I was killing it. I did really well, like really well. I was profitable in Q1. I was profitable in Q2. But at the beginning of June, which is around when the Nashville thing was in 2023, I was utterly exhausted because I was overwhelmed, because I was trying to do all of the things. I didn't necessarily have direction. Terry hadn't invented Aware yet. Whenever we went to the thing in June, I almost didn't go. So there were 4 things over the course of from June 2023 till me standing in front of you now, 9 months later, that I had to go through in order to get to this place. And I'm going to tell you what they are. And I tell you what, it probably would have taken less time if I would have known the 4 steps. I figured this crap out as I went, like we all do with all of our good frameworks. So the first thing I did that was really critical is I decided not to isolate. In May, towards the end of May, right before it was time to go to the event in Nashville, I seriously considered canceling. I paid a bunch of money for this. I had hotel reservations, like the whole 9 yards, but I seriously considered canceling. And that's like canceling on your family at Christmas for me. So I chose to go, and that was the most important, in some ways, decision that I had. The second thing that I did is I admitted my struggle to a group of friendly people. And about 5 of those, like 5 out of the 9 people that we've been with this week were in that room whenever this happened. We had help seats at the event in Nashville in June, and I straight up broke down. It was not pretty. It was not polite. I actually at one point got pissed off and left the room. because I was trying to ask for help on how do I get out of this sense of overwhelm. And I was so burned out, I couldn't even explain very well what I wanted. And I got frustrated when some people in the room did not understand me. So I exited. I just was like, I walked out of the room. I was embarrassed. Like within 2 minutes, I was incredibly embarrassed. And this group of people came around me and helped me in that moment on that day and redeemed the day. I had Jennifer Street, who's part of our community, who is a trauma therapist, came to me and helped me out. I had Ian Ing, who's been to just about everything event that there is. He came and sat next to me. And then by the end of the day, I had help from the people in the room of what am I going to do? And the thing I needed to do next was put on my oxygen mask. So in that day, Jennifer Street actually reminded me of a model I use with my coaching clients all the time. And I was so overwhelmed, I forgot one of my own favorite coaching tools. And that coaching tool is around putting your oxygen mask on by understanding which of the items on your to-do list are glass balls and which items on your to-do list are rubber balls. Glass balls, if you've never heard this example, glass balls are the things that you cannot drop. If you break them, they kind of really ruin your life or ruin your business in the case of what I was talking about. And rubber balls are everything else. They are the things that if you drop them, they bounce. So over the course of 5 months, I was applying glass balls and rubber balls to my life. When I first went back home from Nashville for almost 2 months, there were not very many glass balls. It was like call my mom every once in a while, which happened way less than it probably should. I don't like the phone. And then serve the clients. Basically, I was trying to not end up dead. I was trying to not end up broke. And I was trying to not end up in court because I hadn't delivered. So that really meant I was just going to serve my clients that had already purchased services. I didn't do very many sales calls. I didn't post to social media for a couple months. I checked my emails because I can't stand to have an email box that's messy. But I didn't do anything else. I wasn't trying to write a book. I wasn't trying to do anything else in my business. I wasn't creating new products. I wasn't doing any of that stuff because I needed to rest and have that oxygen mask on me. In July, part of the Mastermind program I'm in, I received a VIP day from Terry. And I went to Nashville, and because, like he said, I'm more family than I am just friend or a client, I stayed at his house. And for a couple of days, we dug into what the roadmap for my business needed to be in order for me to have the balance of energy and revenue and lighting myself up and hitting the audience of people that I want to hit. And since I did a bad job introducing myself, I'm a career and executive coach, and my goal is to help people have work that feels good. So this whole process was around me applying my ethos to me and my own business. So Terry helped me with a roadmap for that. And then I went home and I started slowly implementing that roadmap. The next couple months, I had a couple other pauses in my life. One of my friends, Ian, who I mentioned earlier, had open heart surgery. I took 2 weeks out of my life and my business to go and help Ian through that process. And then I came back and I really was dialed in. And then in October, I had the worst month I've ever had in business because I got COVID. So all of this work of having the oxygen mask on meant I wasn't necessarily in that moment selling very much or doing very many things to be visible or doing all the things that are on the AWARE framework that Terry told us about. But what I was doing was resting, and I was actually had space so that I could recover from COVID. 3 weeks after COVID, I was at the thing Orlando 2023. And I was finally starting to feel like myself for the first time in a very long time. And during that event, I had a lot of light bulbs go off, and I had to think about what do I want for my business? Because my career or my business and my life have always been tightly intertwined. I was raised by teachers who also were raised on farms. My identity with my work and my life have always been very tightly intertwined. I bring the same person to both contexts. And so I thought to myself, what do I want? I want a profitable, sustainable business that I can have fun in, that I can serve people, that I can help them understand that work doesn't have to suck, and that I can make enough money and have enough time freedom to do other things in my life. So from that point, I figured out 4 things for my business that I needed. Now, you may find that you need 4 different things. That's something that a coach like me, a coach like Terry, Renee, like a lot of the people that you've seen talk today, help people with figuring out these kinds of things. But for me, the 4 things I had to focus on were bankability, which is about having products to sell, delivering to clients that I've already promised things to, and making sure that I'm developing things that people want. That's bankability in a nutshell. There can be a lot to that. Some days it's, oh my gosh, I want to write a book that I develop a course and a whole coaching program. Like you could build an empire off of something for bankability. And sometimes it's just doing a leap day offer where you sell your course for $29 because it's February 29th. I did that this morning. The next area was visibility. Visibility is other people's platforms and showing up for your own people. It's actually 2 of the things that Terry talked about that I decided I needed to apply in my business. It's not follower count, guys. It's not how many platforms you're on. It's about, are you out in the world? And for several months that in 2023, I wasn't really out in the world. So I was building a plan around that. Then the next thing was connection. A core value of mine is serving people. I love to serve people one-on-one or in groups, and I have a value around being just obnoxiously generous whenever I can. So for me, connection might be coming to an event like this, but it was also just sending a voice note to a client I haven't worked with in 2 years because I saw through LinkedIn that they got laid off, and I wanted to let them know that I cared about them. Or it could be, you know what, I'm going to donate 2 hours of my time to a college student that's getting out, a college student that's going to graduate soon and really needs to get a job because they don't have an option to go back and live with their parents. That's a lot of what connection was about. And I tried to make sure that I have connection points every single day. And then the last thing is ease. So ease is like, if I look around the people in the room, ease is my Cabrina one. So ease is about automation, of course. We talk a lot about automation in business, and I worked in tech for years like Linda did, so all we did was systems and automation. But the other really critical thing in ease was elimination. There was a lot of things that I had to eliminate. I had to eliminate the idea that in order to grow my business, I needed to spend 2 or more hours a day on LinkedIn interacting with people. I still grow through LinkedIn. My LinkedIn presence is still good, but I spend more time on bankability and connection and visibility in other ways. And as a result, my business is doing a lot better. Is it exactly where I want it? No, because I like to grow always. But the eliminating of expectations of others, expectations of myself, and some of the tasks that 20% of the task would do 80% of the value were really critical for me. So today in my business, I've gone from needing to think about glass balls and rubber balls and being in an oxygen mask survival mode to having a roadmap and having a lens through which I look at everything that I'm going to do. If I'm going to have on my calendar, I'm going to have 3 coaching calls on Monday, then that is around my bankability. And it's also around my connection. But a random call from somebody that we could never serve each other is not going to make it to my calendar anymore because that's a waste of everyone's time. So I put a lens, all those things are my lens for activities. And I'm a Trello nerd. So in order to help keep myself organized, I went through all my old Trello boards because I had like 10 of them because that's how many you get with free Trello. I deleted everything that I didn't think I was going to work on within the next 6 months. I created one consolidated Trello board, and now anything that goes on there has to have 1 or more of the 4 things that I just told you about. Otherwise, it doesn't get done. And I add to it all the time. That doesn't mean it's going to happen tomorrow. I added things from 2 of the talks today, and I coded, is this around visibility? Is this around ease? Is this around connection? So my life has gone from reactionary task list to a roadmap. A lot of coaches get frustrated whenever they work with a client, they map out an idea, and they feel like the client isn't taking action. there's a project that Terry and I talked about back in July that was really kind of like a very important project for my business. I'm just now outlining it. With this group of people, I outlined a course on job search essentials that I'm going to be creating this year. But it's not that I didn't want to take action. That's not why the course didn't get outlined till now. The course didn't get outlined till now because I created a sensible roadmap for myself around what my business and I needed. So if you are sitting there feeling like, oh my gosh, I can't do these big next best leap forward, think about whether you need to take a giant step backward and assess first. The only reason I'm going to be able to make a giant leap forward in 2024 is because I took the giant step back and because I told people what I was doing, why I was doing, and what help I needed to do it. So if that's you, then feel free. Drop a note to Terry, drop a note to anybody that resonated with you in this summit, and ask for help so that we can help you with a step back if you need it, so that you can take a step forward. So thank you. That's all I have.